Hey, everybody, and welcome to Excelsior from Common Room Radio. I'm Sarah K. Pazan, and if you grab me like that again, I'll punch you so hard you'll see.
I'm Alistair Stevens, and you're the most full-of-shit lawyer I've ever met, and I think we should appreciate the magnitude of that statement.
And I'm Vinton Bain, and am I the only one left who doesn't know karate?
Yeah.
You might notice that we just picked all Jessica Jones quotes. There's a reason for that.
She gets the best writing.
She's the best. Yes, absolutely. This week, we're doing the first 4 episodes of the Netflix series. Is it The Defenders or just Defenders?
The Defenders.
The Defenders.
Oh, I
The
thought it was
Defenders.
just Defenders.
No, proper noun.
Oh, man,
The
it's
Defenders.
The Defenders.
Ooh.
Yes.
Dang.
Ooh.
Definite article here.
You know, those definite articles get really tricky.
So we should say right up front that we are covering, as Vinton said, the first 4 episodes this week, but we will be back next week to wrap up the series. So
Yes.
if you are watching it as Sarah and I are watching it, and you stopped at the end of episode 4, I get you. I know. Quite the cliffhanger, you guys, but we're going to resolve it all next week. Sarah,
Yes.
quick gloss of The Defenders. Do you like the show?
I like Jessica Jones and Matt Murdock and Luke Cage and Sigourney Weaver.
So you like 3/4 of The Defenders and our primary antagonist.
Yes.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not bad.
Vinton, how do you feel about the show?
I really liked it a lot. Yeah, it's maybe not as good as some of the best of the Netflix that we've had so far, but it definitely ranks up there within the top 10 of like my favorite Marvel cinematic universe properties. That's including Netflix and the movies. So it's within that top 10, I think.
And you've seen all of the Netflix original series,
I
right?
have. That
Sarah,
I have.
you've seen Jessica Jones.
I've seen all of Jessica Jones, a handful of episodes of Daredevil here and there. I saw, I think, like the first half of Luke Cage, and I saw 15 seconds of Iron Fist.
So we were in pretty much the same place. I've seen the
Yes.
first season of Daredevil and Jessica Jones and the first episode of Luke Cage, which I am now definitely going to go back and watch. Seeing Luke Cage in The Defenders has absolutely convinced me that that show does, in fact, know what it's doing.
Yes.
I don't think that has a strong first episode, but we'll probably, talk about that at some point.
At some point, yeah.
At some point.
Yeah, I've enjoyed all the Netflix shows. I was a big fan of Daredevil when they announced Daredevil Netflix. I was very excited, even though I'd been hurt so badly by that Ben Affleck movie. I remember taking the day off work and waking up at like 5 a.m. so I could start binge watching the show.
Wow.
And at the time, I didn't have a TV in my living room, so I drugged the TV from my bedroom, set it up on crates like right in front of my couch, curled up in the blanket, and just watched straight through all of Daredevil.
Sounds like
it
a
was so
great
excited. I
day.
think I ended up watching it 3 times all the way through that week.
Whoa.
Because I'd have like a friend come over, I'd be like, you gotta watch the show. And then my wife would come over, I'd be like, let's watch the show again.
That sounds like what happened to me whenever the movie Frozen came out on DVD. And
Frozen and Daredevil, similar in so many ways.
so many ways. It's
So many
really
ways.
weird. Whenever you like break them down to their constituent parts, like the fact that they have a blind crime-fighting Disney princess. I mean, you wouldn't anticipate it. And
It was a
yet,
surprise to everyone.
It was.
Yes.
Before we get too far into this, I think we should say that if you haven't watched the other Netflix stuff, there will be some minor spoilers, maybe even some major spoilers. I'm a big believer that spoilers don't ruin good stories. So I think you should be okay with that. And plus, there's actually good narratives in those stories that have nothing to do with what we're going to be talking about in
Yeah.
Defenders. So there's going to be something there for you anyways. But just wanted to put that out there first.
I think that's the best approach because if you watch The Defenders, there are spoilers for all of the individual
Yeah,
constituent
exactly.
series
Yes.
too.
Yes.
So,
And that's
yes.
pretty much all the spoilers we'll be talking about
Yeah.
is the ones that you will get watching the show.
Right.
Before we continue on much further, let's go ahead and flip over the VHS.
Yay!
What do a blind, parkouring pro bono lawyer, a super strong drunk detective, a cleared convict with impenetrable epidermis, and a privileged, power-fisted Richie Rich have in common? Well, a vigilante venerating night nurse, actually. Oh, and a secret society cultish clan of ninjas, of course. Can they set aside their differences long enough to tie up all the dangling plot threads from Daredevil so we don't have to keep dealing with the Hand? We'll find out in Iron Fist Season 1.5. That's right, we found a way to trick you into watching our elongated Iron Fist finale.
Fair.
I had to take that one a bit slower than usual because I decided to be really alliterative with it. And
That's great. That ties back to
difficult.
the origin, the comics
Yeah,
origin
that's
of all
right.
of
Yes,
these
yeah.
characters.
Thank you,
Yes.
Stan Lee.
Yeah. I mean, Jessica Jones, Matt Murdock, Daredevil.
Daredevil.
Weird that his parents called him that.
I know, yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Devil.
Self-fulfilling prophecy right there. So let's talk about, real quick, the showrunners of this show. We have Doug Petrie. I'm assuming that's how you say that.
It
Wait,
is.
Doug Petrie?
Doug Petrie.
No.
Yeah, I thought you might know this name. And Marco Ramirez. Doug Petrie, best known as writer, director, and co-executive producer on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yep.
He also co-wrote the screenplays for the 2005 Fantastic Four film and Harriet the Spy.
The one with Michelle Trachtenberg?
Yeah, yep.
Awesome.
That was that person's name, I think. He's also written for television shows Angel, The 4400, True Calling, and American Horror Story Coven.
Was a consulting producer on Pushing Daisies and wrote one episode of that series. And yeah, one of my all-time favorite Buffy writers.
Yeah.
He has an incredible roster of episodes over on Buffy.
He was also the co-executive producer on the first season of Daredevil and took over as showrunner for its second season with Ramirez.
Okay, that makes me actually want to go through and like watch all of Daredevil now.
Daredevil's fantastic. It's some of the best. Actually, I would say that I have a hard time judging the Netflix stuff. I have to like take out moments and characters. Like Kingpin and Punisher are my two favorite things about the Netflix stuff for sure. But Daredevil season 1 and 2, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage all pretty much tie for me, except for the fact that Luke Cage ending falls a little flat for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So other than that, though, pretty close running. Marco Ramirez, outside of Daredevil and Defenders, you might know him from producing and writing. He has worked on Fear the Walking Dead, Sons of Anarchy, Orange is the New Black, and Da Vinci's Demons, which I'm not familiar with, but that came up a lot with the different people working on this show. So, what we need to know going into this, if you didn't already watch the Netflix series, let me run through this as quickly as possible. We should mention that we won't be doing deep comic book dives for this because we'll probably do that when we get to each individual character's own show. For now, know that those characters are pretty good representatives of their comic counterparts in the show.
Yeah.
There's not any big differences between them, except for that Danny's more liked in the comics. Just remember, everyone hates him in the Netflix shows. Everyone likes him in the comics.
Yes.
He's a fan favorite. Yeah.
Yes.
And the series that we're going to be talking about doesn't pull much from the comics that the shows that came before it didn't already pull to set up for this show. So again, no reason to dive into comics for that. I am going to try to avoid plot points that don't matter for the Defenders. There's a lot of those as we go through this. It's important to know these shows take place in the same universe as the Marvel movies, the MCU, but they only have mostly vague references, no crossover characters as of yet. They are darker, more down to earth, and way more violent than the MCU. And Claire Temple is a nurse in the show that threads all the shows together somewhat.
Yes.
She's the Defenders' Phil Coulson.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. By role and not name, she is a reference to a character from the comics known as the Night Nurse who helps injured heroes.
Yes, who is a great character deep in the in the 616 universe. Yeah,
Right.
cool.
Yeah. So now that I've said all that very quickly, previously on Marvel's Netflix. I was hoping I would get somebody. In Daredevil, Matt and his friend Foggy run a small, struggling law firm. We learned Matt was blinded as a child by chemicals that also gave him superhumanly heightened senses. He was also trained by a man named Stick to fight a war against a clan of ninjas known as the Hand, but he wants nothing to do with it. He becomes Daredevil to bring justice to his city, but when his friends Foggy and love interest / assistant Karen discover his secret, they have a falling out. Then his old love interest returns into his life. Elektra dies fighting alongside him. His life in shambles, he decides to hang up the costume. Karen leaves to become a reporter. Foggy goes to work with another law firm, and their relationships are left heavily strained after the events of the show. Also, Claire Temple starts her hero doctoring in season 1, and in season 2, we find out that the Hand can bring people back to life, which will become important.
they sure can.
They sure can.
And interestingly, Foggy ends up working for Hogarth.
Yep.
Which is pretty
my
great.
gay lawyer mom.
Your gay lawyer mom. Yeah. We're going to be talking a lot about your extended family, Sarah.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Jessica Jones got super strength and other enhancements that come with that, and a tragic childhood accident left her orphaned. She's an alcoholic private eye with PTSD after being abused by Kilgrave, a supervillain who can control people's minds.
You mean Murder Corpse?
Yes. Luke Cage appears in this show as a love interest to Jones, but they have a falling out. Also, Jones' best friend Trish Walker is a popular radio host. A lawyer friend of hers named Jerry Hogarth is the one who hires Foggy, as we just mentioned, and Claire Temple meets Luke in this series.
Yes.
Luke Cage was enhanced through experiments while being wrongly imprisoned. His skin is impenetrable. He returns to Harlem after a hard past and finds himself in the middle of a turf war over his neighborhood. He puts a stop to it and becomes the hero of Harlem, quote unquote. He also forms a relationship with Misty Knight. At the end of the show, he is in a relationship with Claire Temple and goes back to jail to finish his sentence. The Iron Fist is Danny Rand. As a kid, his parents died in a plane crash caused by a member of the Hand to take control of his parents' large, successful company.
Have you seen Arrow?
Yeah,
Do you know Arrow?
Or like
Similar to
Batman.
Arrow.
It's kind of Arrow.
or-
Yeah.
Well, Batman didn't have a large company that anybody was trying to take over.
I guess that's fair.
Batman, don't compare Batman to Iron
I'm
Fist.
sorry. You're right. I'm sorry.
Into this Iron Fist.
I'm sorry. I
Yes.
apologize.
He survives and is taken in by monks into a mystical city known as Kunlun, where he trains and earns the title and power of the Iron Fist, which is basically a really strong, good, glowing punch.
Oh, it's Chi.
Yeah. It's chi. It's not. He comes back to New York and regains control of his family's company. He forms a relationship with Colleen Wing, who turns out to have connections to the Hand. Also, she's a badass. Together,
Yep.
they defeat a leader of the Hand known as Bakudo and start a journey around the world to hunt down the Hand. Claire Temple also shows up and befriends the two of them.
Claire Temple just stitching this universe together, one
Yep.
hero at a time.
Literally is
Literally
doing that
stitching
thing.
individual
Literally
heroes
stitching
and
these humans
the
together.
tapestry of
The story and the flesh.
MCNU, the Marvel Cinematic Netflix universe.
The
I
Marvel
Very
Netflix,
confusing.
the MNU,
guess.
the Marvel
MNU.
Netflix universe.
Okay, I'll take that. Yep.
In this series, the founding members of the Defenders are Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist. In the comics, the Defenders premiered in 1971 and were formed by the Incredible Hulk, Doctor Strange, Silver Surfer, and Namor,
What?
the Submariner.
Yeah.
That's vastly different.
Very,
Yeah.
very different.
Wildly
The Hulk
different.
and Doctor Strange and the Silver Surfer in particular, and Namor the Submariner, not really what you would consider your street level heroes.
no.
No, it's
Not a
very
lot of
street level
stopping
team,
muggers
Sarah. You
in
understand.
Hell's Kitchen.
He surfs through the streets of Hell's Kitchen
In Harlem. I go, what?
on the
That's weird.
cosmic Kirby dots from Doctor Strange. Yeah. Anyways, that team has radically changed its lineup left and right throughout the years, not really keeping traction as being a big thing up until the show was getting popular. And then they released a new comic, which is the very first time that you saw this same lineup of these four characters in the comics being on a team together.
There's a certain amount of crossover between the street level heroes in the comic universe. You know, these are heroes who do protect the innocent in the streets of New York rather than generally fighting cosmic level villains and bad guys. We, of course, have an established relationship between Luke Cage and Iron Fist, who have co-starred in their comic for the longest time. That was a
Right.
huge hit in the 1970s and early
And that was
1980s.
whenever, was Luke Cage called Power Man
Power
at the
Man,
time?
Power Man and Iron Fist.
Okay.
Power Man, not a great name. I can see
No.
why they dropped that for Netflix.
Yeah. Luke Cage is a way better name.
That does feel like a 6-year-old was allowed to create his own, superhero.
Yes.
This is Power Man.
Power Man.
Why is he he's got powers.
Yeah, reminds me of when
Great
one of
kid.
my friend's kids would call Spider-Man Fighter Man. Fighter Man, the man who fights. Fighter Man.
Fighter Man does everything that a fighter can.
It sure does. Absolutely. This show, however, draws more closely from a mature imprint Marvel did known as Marvel Knights, in which Jessica Jones had her origin comic Alias. And these had darker, more grounded street level stories, as we've mentioned. And that's really where they put this show together from. So, and as you mentioned, these characters have had lots of connections. Daredevil, of course, working right near them all the time. And Luke Cage and Iron Fist, of course, constantly teamed up. They're like brothers. They're never separate
And
in the
like
comics.
Jessica Jones and Luke Cage have a daughter
Yep.
that they named Danielle after Danny Rand,
Yep.
right?
Yep. So, and in the comics, they have a relationship, and we're still waiting for that in the show. There was hints of it, and then it
Right.
went south real quick.
Well, you shoot a guy in the head with a shotgun.
There's only
and
so
you're
much that
probably
can
not
happen
going to get a
after
second
that.
date. I don't know.
That was not even the worst thing she did in that series to him. So,
to be fair, yeah.
so now that we've talked all about that, let's dive into the first episode.
Yes, let's do it.
Episode 1 is titled The H Word. You know what the H stands for?
Hero?
It's hero. They don't like
Okay.
that word. None of them like that word. That's actually a theme that I kind of like, is that none of them want to be heroes. They don't want to be known as heroes. The closest one that wants to be a hero in some sort, bring justice, is Matt Murdock, Daredevil, but he doesn't want to be Daredevil anymore.
Yeah, and Luke Cage kind of adopts it as the hero of Harlem,
Yes.
but it's very specific. It's not a general kind of
He's just there
heroism.
to protect his neighborhood.
Exactly.
He doesn't care about
Yeah.
anything bigger. You learn that here as we find out that there is something bigger going on. This episode was directed by S.J. Clarkson, written by Douglas Petrie and Marco Ramirez, who we already talked about. Clarkson is a director who has worked on episodes of Heroes, Dexter, Ugly Betty, House, and the first 2 episodes of Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
Nice.
An in-house director here for Netflix.
Excellent.
And a great sense of time and of place, a great sense of kinetic cinematography. We are
Yeah.
immediately thrown into Cambodia and into this great fight sequence, which I just adore. This was my introduction to Danny Rand. And I don't hate Danny Rand, you guys.
Ooh.
Not right now. I will hate him later in the
In
series.
like 5 minutes.
In like 5 minutes, I
Yeah.
will hate him. And then he will kind of start to win me back again.
Mm-hmm.
But right up front, hey, he's a pretty good character.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I do like, just to look at an overall here, is that Danny Rand becomes the positive one of this group. He's the one that's really okay
Yeah.
with them getting together. He's like, yeah, well, you guys want to fight these people? I want to fight these people. Let's do this thing. And he's really into it, while the other ones are very skeptical of
Yes.
teaming up. So I kind of like that he's the one that brings the positive light into it. I think that works for his character.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great addition to their team dynamic. Yeah.
What do you guys think about the credits sequence for the Defenders, like the opening credits here? How do you guys feel about those compared to the other Netflix shows in particular?
I love them. I absolutely love the Defenders opening titles. I love the way that we overlay these heroes on these characters. Sorry, the H word. We overlay these characters on the streets of New York. I think that's so powerful, so evocative. It absolutely anchors us in time and place. It's really, really good.
I really like that we get the characters silhouetted over New York with their trademark colors.
Yes.
I think that's really cool. And then they overlap each other. That's a really cool image. I can't remember actually what the opening credits look like to any of the shows except the first season of Daredevil, which has one of the most beautiful openings to a show I've
It's got
ever
the same
seen.
one as True Blood, right?
Yeah, it's basically it's
not
a
dissimilar.
It's
Yeah.
like an invisible statue of Daredevil having blood poured over it.
Yes. Yeah, that's very similar to what True
I've never
Blood.
watched
There's
True
also
Blood,
another
so-
one. There were like 4 that all got this same graphics program at the same time, and they were like, yes.
perfect.
I think it was that
I
Dracula
really liked
show
it.
that was running for a little bit,
Oh,
actually.
boy. That
yeah.
sounds like a good title sequence for a Dracula show.
Yeah, yeah.
Certainly.
I actually don't like the Defenders intro as much as I enjoyed. I think the Daredevil one is cooler, and also I like the Jessica Jones one a little bit better. I don't really remember the Luke Cage one, and I never actually saw the one for Iron Fist.
There was
But
always a problem with Netflix original title sequences, which is this is Netflix, so you can skip them. And now they've introduced this skip intro button if you're marathoning the series.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had to really think there to figure out what the Defenders title sequence looked like.
right, yeah.
Which I guess they introduced that button, and that's the reason why they've stopped doing the thing, at least with their own original things, because I've seen it in other shows still, where they would have the full intro on the first episode and then really smart, just like really
Yeah.
smart, really small, just show the title real quick and then go on. They don't do that at all on the Defenders, but they have the button, so I guess they feel like they don't need to do that. I don't know, but I wish they would just go back to that. It's like, I don't want to push a button. Just show me the title. I know what I'm watching.
Kind of like it.
I'm
as
on
an
episode
option,
2.
but I think that you can dip back into this. And Netflix seems to be leaning away from the idea that these shows are built to be binged.
Sure.
I think that they're kind of building in the idea that, well, okay, you can, so we're going to release it all on the same day.
Right.
But you should probably space this out a
Yeah.
little bit because we probably suffered from some emotional trauma from people who marathon Daredevil season 1. That
Right,
seems like a
right.
bad idea.
Yeah.
Also, it's kind of bad business to have people binge watching things because it really shortens the amount of time we talk about this. You might notice as we record this, not many people are talking about the Defenders anymore. People talked about it a lot that first week. And then they all watched it and it was over. Whereas another type of show that can't be binged, it comes out, once a week, every 2 weeks, whatever, is talked about for 6 months because that's how long it takes for somebody to watch the show.
Exactly.
And so it
I
just
mean, my
radically
God, I
changes
feel
it.
like every day my Twitter stream is full of Game of Thrones. And is that show over yet? Is it done yet?
No, there's another season.
Oh my God, I'm so tired of seeing Game of Thrones stuff in my timeline.
I could not agree more.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to put that
I
crap
have
on mute.
no interest in Game
Zero
of Thrones,
interest in
and
Game of
everyone
Thrones.
I know loves it and just wants to talk about it every time an episode comes out for like 2 days.
Yeah.
Twitter just becomes completely unusable. It's
Basically.
true, too, that if you didn't watch Defenders, at least in the first week that it was released, then you were probably spoiled about some stuff on
Yeah.
social
Sure.
media
Yeah,
because
that's
everyone
another
else has
fallback.
watched it. So
Yeah.
you don't get that fascinating tension that you can get from long-running shows. It feels really weird for me to be arguing against a marathoning series because when Netflix started doing this, I was super into it.
Well, yeah,
I
that
don't
was like
wanna
the whole
wait.
point,
Let me
right?
watch it on my
Yeah.
schedule. This
Yeah.
is fantastic.
Right.
But yeah, I feel as though they're dialing that back and kind of stepping away from the idea that this has to be consumed immediately and in bulk. And I think you can definitely see that in the Defenders from a pacing perspective. It feels as though they are not padding these episodes, but they're building in more kind of fluidic pacing as you move through. They will allow things to slow down again in a way that I don't really feel we did in Jessica Jones, certainly.
Yeah. What was a fun segue, just super quick? What was the last show that you binge watched?
I am currently in the process of almost binge watch. I have no time to actually binge watch something,
Sure.
but I'm in the process of binge watching to the limits of my capability. Twin Peaks: The Return, season
Nice.
3 of Twin Peaks. I have watched 7 episodes in the last week and a half.
Nice.
So I'm hoping to catch up before the season finale because otherwise I will again be completely spoiled on social
Right,
media,
yeah.
no matter my best intentions. And Twin Peaks is the kind of show. It's basically the only show that I don't want spoiled because David Lynch is a madman, and you can never see what he's going to do next
Sure.
coming down the pike. So
The last episode is just full of
I'm
snakes.
ready.
So.
It could be. me.
Snakes and pandas. What about you, Vince?
I binge watched all of New Girl over the summer.
Nice. The last show I binge watched was The Great British Baking Show, all 3 seasons that are on Netflix.
Good.
That was
Yeah.
what my husband and I were into for like a week and a half.
I kind
You
of
guys
binge
did it
watched that
right.
too.
Reality TV and sitcoms are perfect binge fodder.
Yes.
Like dramas can get a little heavy and you don't
Yeah.
necessarily want to be engaged over an extended period, but reality TV, every season I've ever seen of The Amazing Race, I have binged in like a day or two.
Nice.
And I've seen, gosh, almost every season of The Amazing Race, you guys.
Is it a lot? I don't know anything
There
about
are
The Amazing
like
Race.
25 seasons.
Oh my
Like,
God.
A lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot. Yes.
Oh.
The summer of last year was my summer of Amazing Race. It was pretty great.
I somehow completely forgot. I more recently than that binge watched Dirk Gently, which was amazing.
Aren't there
and
like
I wish there was
3
more
episodes
of
of Dirk Gently, though?
that. No, there's like
super short.
7 or 8. I
Oh,
feel
really?
like.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
feel like
realize
there's
it
as
ran
much
that
as
long.
Defenders. Yeah.
See, this is the problem. You're talking about the Elijah Wood Dirk Gently, and I'm still thinking of the Stephen Mangan Dirk Gently
Yes,
that was
no.
created a couple of years
Yes,
ago.
the one
which
that just
was
came
not a
out.
success. Yes. I
Which
need to see that very
It's
much.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I loved it a lot.
We can probably stretch the bounds of Excelsior to talk about Dirk Gently, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So
It's our show.
I
We can
think
do what we
so.
want.
Super
Yeah.
heroics,
Yeah.
but it's also not that.
Technicalities.
Jumping back into our episode, we, as Alistair mentioned, open up in Cambodia with Danny Rand and Colleen Wing hunting the hand. They run into a mystery woman who I'm assuming they didn't want us to know who she was, or were hoping that we would kind of miss it, or maybe pick up on it. Do you guys know? You knew who that was, right?
Yeah. I mean, just
Yeah.
right from the jump. This is, more importantly, though, my introduction to Colleen Wing, who is fantastic.
Yeah, because you haven't watched
Colleen the
enough of it, yeah.
Immortal Iron Fist.
I'm sorry. Did you not know that there was a white man in the room at the time?
Oh,
Yeah.
Damn.
That's why. That's why right there.
fuck.
But she's great though, right?
No,
this
she's
must
really
be his
good. I like her
introduction
a
to
lot.
her too, right?
Yeah.
And she immediately works for you?
I mean, I don't know what she's doing hanging out with Danny Rand, but yeah, she's fine. They're fine. It's fine.
But yeah, it did bother me that they kept Elektra's face in the shadows while she killed this guy, as if they were like, who's this mystery woman that's
Yeah.
clearly Elektra, who we
Right,
hinted at
right.
her being resurrected just in our last episode of our thing.
Well, did we hint at that? Because obviously
Yeah,
I'm coming
Daredevil
into this
season
without the
2
context
hints
of,
at, like,
okay.
it does more than hint at that. It says
They
this
put
is
her
going
into
to happen,
the giant,
basically. Yeah.
like, weird stone coffin thing,
Yes.
right?
And
the
they were like-
Lazarus pit?
yeah.
Yeah.
So that-
Wait, it's called a Lazarus pit?
No, that's a Batman thing.
Oh, okay.
but essentially, yes.
All right. Okay.
So they are told by this dying man that they need to return to New York City to fight this real war. And the
Must
men.
return to New York City. We can't afford to shoot in Cambodia.
I really-
It's super expensive.
I
you
really
guys.
like the line, go home, Danny. Go home.
That had nothing to do with like the war or anything. That guy was just sick of Danny Rand
Right.
flying around Cambodia.
Yeah, that guy was just speaking for everyone that was really mad at that show.
I completely love the way that this is shot, though. I think we enter into this with such a sense of power, and I'm a little skeptical of like using Cambodia as a stand-in for an exotic locale, because I've seen that done in approximately 5 million different movies and TV shows, but it really works, and
Yeah.
it's immediately visceral. And this is what I love about all of the Netflix shows. The kineticism of the combat feels real. We get people moving like they've
I
just
do
been
really
punched,
enjoy, yeah,
and it all
the fight sequences.
really
yeah.
works.
Yeah, which is one of the weak points of Iron Fist, is the fight scenes just do not work well.
Because apparently the guy that they got to play Danny Rand like was not trained at all. They only had like 2 weeks or something to get him trained, and like just didn't know anything about martial arts and all. Like I was asking my husband as I was watching the show, I was like, why? Well, okay, he's not good in my personal opinion, but otherwise, like, why were people hating on this guy as Iron Fist so much? And he was like, well, I mean, like he just had zero physical, martial arts training or whatever, and so it doesn't look
Well,
good.
the big controversy over it was that there is nothing essentially that needed to be white about this character at
Yeah.
all. And there's this old trope of the white savior
Yes.
who goes to an Asian place, learns some kind of mystical something.
They just
and-
did this with the movie The Great Wall. Which,
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
Like,
it's such an old, tired trope.
And The
Also,
Last Samurai.
They
and
kind of just did it with Doctor Strange too.
They did
Right.
also kind of do it with Doctor Strange.
I mean,
Wow.
To be fair, he went and learned something and came back
Yes,
to use it here, not to save them.
The problem with Doctor Strange too, though, also they were like, the ancient one is
the
a Celtic
ancient one
woman.
was the problem there, because
Yes.
and I understand their reasoning for that. I don't agree with what they did, but they do have to worry about the money that they're making, and there are certain areas where
And
they're
their
trying to
main
sell that
villain
movie.
was white in that movie too. Jeez
Yes.
Louise.
The other problem here is not just the idea of the great white savior, which is true of all, indigenous cultures all over the world. They've
Yeah.
all been saved by a white guy at some point in popular fiction.
Oh,
you
Dances
guys.
with Wolves?
But
was
also
the other one, right?
deliberate erasure of Asian characters
Yeah.
Yeah.
in TV and
Right,
film.
which is definitely the biggest deal of it, because there's such a hard thing. We just recently had an interview with Chloe Bennett talking about why she changed her name, because she has an Asian last name, but she knew that she would never get work in Hollywood with a
Yeah.
last name like that.
Yeah.
And it's just true of the culture, the system is that for some reason, because of these old things that are built in from back in the day, this racism that's built in, Asian people have a hard time getting jobs because even the roles that were built for them are whitewashed.
Like freaking Ghost in the Shell, which I enjoyed as a visual spectacle. And like, I love Scarlett Johansson. You guys know that I love Scarlett Johansson. She's one of my favorites. Why is Scarlett Johansson the lead character in this Ghost in the Shell film?
Yeah, because she's Scarlett Johansson and because you can bank on her. I mean, there is a kind of vicious circle element to this, which is because there is this institutionalized racism against specifically Asian actors in Hollywood. No Asian actors are cast. Thus, Asian actors are not bankable. Thus, when you get a movie like Ghost in the Shell that requires a really, popular and attractive, mainly attractive in the commercial sense rather than the physical sense, you need to cast someone who is an established actor. Thus, ScarJo gets the
movie
gig.
also tried to sort of wriggle its way out of that, where they were like, no, the evil corporation literally took this young Japanese woman and put her into a white woman's body. It was fine, you guys. Like, we know that we did
See, I kind of like the idea of doing that and framing that as a bad thing.
They didn't quite do
It's
a good
kind
enough
of a
job,
duck. I think you can do these stories as long as you honor the internal tension contained within
Well,
it,
that movie's
which
a
I
hot
think
mess
they
anyway,
do
yeah.
with the character of Doctor Strange, with the character of Stephen Strange in Doctor Strange. I think they actually managed to maintain that tension quite nicely because his discomfort with being a white guy in an Asian culture is obvious and is kind of functional for his character. Yeah, they kind of dropped the ball with Tilda Swinton a little bit.
There's
his
been
discomfort with an American accent.
His discomfort and
well,
lack of
hold on.
familiarity.
He wasn't discomforted by that. I was discomforted by that. Let's be clear. But we've had a great advancement just this past week in this area of whitewashing Asian roles. In that Hellboy casted Deadpool's Ed Skrein. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. And he was to play a half Japanese character who his character was deeply Asian. There's like reasons why that character has to be that way. You can't just change that. And I think it was the director or somebody was being a little vigilant on Twitter that she was not going to change that. She wasn't wrong in doing this and that everything was fine and it wasn't whitewashing and people were
Best
being mean
actor
to
for
her.
the role, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
And Ed himself read everything up on it and said, oh, yeah, this is a bad idea. I wrote a letter saying I have jumped out of this because it was a bad idea. I'm so sorry that I accepted it in the first place without knowing this background. And this is the way these things should be handled. And I'm not going to be a part of this movie. And I hope that they find a character who is racially the way that character is supposed to be.
Right.
And everyone was just like, yes, finally we have an example. We have someone to look for that you did this thing. And so now we can actually look at other actors and say, hey, look, you actually can do this. You don't have to take this role and try to do something artsy. We now have an example of the way it should be done.
Exactly right.
And so I think going forth, this is going to provide extra pressure to keep other actors from accepting roles that end up being whitewashing.
It is worth saying too, I think that while there are obvious problems associated with Danny Rand from the comics, extending all the way back, he is literally a white savior character in his origin story in the comic books too. We could perhaps have treated that more sensitively here in the Netflix side of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I do think it is worth observing that The Defenders is a super diverse show.
It is.
Which I think is really great. We've got a lot of strong and active women, a lot of strong and active black characters. We're still kind of dropping the ball a little on the Asian characters and the use of Asian archetypes.
Right. They're all villains,
by which
pretty much.
I am exhausted.
Yeah.
And this takes me to my biggest problem, I guess, because we're jumping straight into fighting the Hand in Cambodia. I don't care about the Hand, you
I
guys.
seriously don't care about the Hand.
I don't care about the Foot
I was
Clan. They
not-
just don't work
I was
for me.
literally about to say the only reason I care about the Hand is because they directly led to the creation of the Foot, and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were made in the same accident that created Daredevil. That's canonically true. That is canonically true.
Wait, is Daredevil the secret of the ooze?
The chemical that blinded Matt when he was a kid, same chemical that leaked into the sewer and made the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
We can't fully say that it's canonically true because they're two different comic properties, but
is.
that is the story of the Ninja Turtles in their own universe. Yes.
Some lawyers would like us to point out that is not the same incident. Those are legally distinct. They're not our lawyers, just some lawyers who showed up in the studio.
room.
Yes. They
Manifested.
just apparated into the studio to let us know that that's
Appropriate on September 1st.
There it is.
Hey.
Good luck at Hogwarts, everyone. We hope you're having a great day.
So this man who died in Cambodia actually is credited as Shaft in the credits, and that is a Marvel Comics character who is part of Styx group, The Chased, which I thought was a cool Easter egg that you don't really know and you have no way of knowing who this guy is.
Movie? And was it that Shaft?
No,
Okay.
that's
well, okay. Yeah, firstly, no, there wasn't. That was a fever dream. There definitely wasn't a Shaft movie starring Samuel L. Jackson. That never happened. That was the worst timeline. That was the darkest timeline. But Shaft is a blaxploitation character from the 70s.
Oh, I
He's-
see.
he's
Okay,
a-
so that happened
nothing
when
to do
Ganon
with
killed
Marvel.
Link,
No, yeah.
and he wasn't able to. And so then you get the dark timeline.
Well, what I can tell you about the other Shaft, that he's one bad mother. Shut your mouth. I'm just trying to talk about Shaft.
Just trying to talk about Shaft all weekend.
Meanwhile, in New York City, Jessica Jones is disenchanted and does not want to be a superhero.
Yay!
Jessica pulling Trish's.
Yes.
I can't, guys. I just can't. Her name is Patsy Walker.
This is not Patsy Walker. This is Trish Walker.
Her car off of the tow truck is one of the most delightful
It's
things.
so great. I still remember.
Yeah, wait a minute, though. What has she just done to Trish's car?
Yeah, no, that's what I was just about to say. Is I'm not sure that would work in real life.
Well, okay, so when you take the hook thing on the back of a tow truck, it like has to loop under like the front, and so she definitely ripped off like the front bumper, right?
Yeah, if not like the entire front half of the car.
Yeah,
But you know what? We'll let that
maybe
pass.
she somehow broke the cable off the truck and not Trish's actual car.
I don't know.
I remember the first time I was watching Jessica Jones, and I had no idea that Jessica Jones was like a super powered superhero. I just thought
Yeah.
she was like Black Widow and Hawkeye, and just like a really excellent human being. And when you see her like
That's what I think of when I think of Hawkeye. A really excellent human
Just
being.
an excellent human being.
excellent person on his little farm.
Sure.
He's got all these chickens named after the Avengers. Anyway, when I saw Jessica stopping the car in the street, I like flipped out. I was like, oh wait, she's got superpowers. And
They
was like
hold
even
that
more
for
in.
a
They
long
do.
time. It's
Yeah.
such restraint. I absolutely love it. Can we just talk for a second about Kristen Ritter and how magnificent she is?
I love
She
her
is
so
really
much.
great, yeah.
She is
so good.
perfect
And as we said
Jessica Jones.
at the beginning of this episode, there's a reason that we all quoted Jessica
Yep.
for our intro lines because she gets all the best lines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even in
Entire
even
episode.
this scene, she gets
Yeah.
2 lines here with Trish, which is Trish saying, "You know what your problem is," and she says sentences like that. And then at one point, she gives Trish some coffee, and she goes, "Is there whiskey in this?" And she goes, "Oh yeah, that's mine."
I loved it. It was so good.
And yet, in that moment, too, we're really starting to hit the idea that Jessica's drinking is a problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
it wasn't always presented that way in the Jessica Jones series. I mean, it's a major element of her character, but she's dealing with Kilgrave.
Yeah.
And now she's not, and she seems to be drinking more.
Later on in the series, there is a part where someone asks her if she's drunk, and she goes, "No." Yeah, but that's not a problem.
Yeah, in the 4th episode.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
right. Well, yeah, it's
And that's clearly the first sign of alcoholism is when a drunk person tells you it's not a problem that they're drunk.
Right.
Right. It'll be interesting to see if that's something that we're dealing with a little more in sort of, because I feel like a lot of times it was kind of played for a joke, if not this is how she deals with the Kilgrave situation. Otherwise, it was just like, look at her drinking so much. Isn't
That's
that
right.
funny?
Dealing
But
with Kilgrave, it's almost medicinal.
Yes.
Right? She's almost treating her PTSD with it
Yeah.
so that she can work the case, so that she can save people.
Right.
And we can kind of respect that, even if we're made uncomfortable by it. And
Yeah.
now it's just, no, this is actually ugly.
is a
and
problem, yeah.
It does make me a little fearful for what we're going to see from Jessica in the 2nd season of Jessica Jones, which I can't wait for.
I'm so excited. Yeah.
Ask me what the next series I'm going to binge watch is, because it's that one.
Meanwhile, Luke Cage is being released from prison, where we see a familiar face in his lawyer, Foggy Nelson, working with Hogarth. I really like the moment where Luke crushes those handcuffs that they can't get off him quick enough, and hands them over to the guy, and he's like, "These are yours."
My favorite moment in that is people call me Foggy, and you let them.
And you let them? No, I really enjoy the character of Luke Cage. I think that he's just like a super cool dude. Like, I just really enjoy him. I
Fantastic.
love when he rips off those handcuffs, because it's like, I am here because I wanted to be here and
Right.
wanted to stay here. None of you had
Yeah.
any power over me this entire time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so perfect. And then he tells Foggy, "I'm not starting over, I'm moving forward." And that's an encouraging Uncle Ben style message that he got from Pop in his own season, which
Yeah.
was never backward, always forward, always. So that was kind of like the tagline for Luke Cage there. So if you hadn't seen that was a nice callback.
Yeah, I love how that was built into the scene, and we get that real sense of I don't know, a reconnection with his life from the.
Yeah.
God, I just love all of the Luke scenes. They're so
They're
good.
very, very good.
It's just
Yeah.
extraordinary.
Meanwhile, as I said before, Matt Murdock has put his vigilante crime-fighting days as Daredevil behind him, and now he is...
Did he just hang the suit up in a closet?
Yep.
he put it in a box.
In
Oh,
a
that's
box.
right.
Looks that way.
Yes, okay. Technically a
A
box.
metaphorical closet, a literal box.
Also, where did he, because I have not watched Daredevil enough to know this, but where did he get that suit? Because everything of Daredevil I've seen,
that's talked about in the show for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a character who makes armor like that he comes in contact with. And
That's amazing.
There's a cool backstory behind that.
they've got, it's like, it's a super suit. It's Edna Mode. It's Edna Mode. He found Edna Mode.
throughout the majority of
He
the
doesn't
first
have a
season.
cape.
Well, yeah, Edna
You
Mode
might be
doesn't
right.
do
Yeah,
capes.
no, you might be right.
Throughout the majority of the first season of Daredevil, he doesn't have a suit. He
Yeah,
just wears
he's
like
just
the
like
headscarf
in
thing.
tights
Yeah.
and you look like an idiot. It's your scarf.
You look like an asshole.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
I don't want to well actually you on that line, except that line is a thing of beauty.
Yes.
Listen, we're a comics podcast. If we can't well actually each other, I don't know where you can.
If not here, then where? If not now, then when?
It's a safe space for well, actually.
And he is now fighting for justice, doing pro bono lawyer work. And there's a couple of really great moments here. There's the moment where Matt hears dangerous activity while he's working on the case outside, and he's... For a second, you're wondering, is he going to run outside and do something about this stuff happening? But then he hears the police handling it, and he just goes right back into his work.
Yeah.
And then it goes straight from there, him practicing his lines, to the courtroom hearing where he is winning this court case for this settlement.
Like, hands down.
Yeah, like destroying this
Good
guy.
lawyer.
Yeah.
And he walks out and he's talking to this kid in the wheelchair who's been affected, the reason for the court case. And he tells this kid, speaking from his own personal experience, telling him how difficult it's going to be dealing with what he has to deal with, saying, your ability to get through it as this gets hard, that is 100 times more powerful than slapping a smile on your face and pretending that everything is just fine. And then he says, no one can give you your life back. You have to take it back.
It's such a great scene. And we find out later that this was a multi-million-dollar payout. So this kid is going to have at least a kind of comfortable life. Well, and that doesn't matter.
Right. And I like that that's put forth by him telling that kid that money will do a lot for your parents.
Yeah.
Saying it's not going to do anything for you.
Yeah.
Not for what you're facing, not for what you're going through. So we've got Charlie Cox playing Matt Murdock. We've got Kristen Ritter playing Jessica Jones. We've got Mike Coulter playing Luke Cage and Finn Jones playing Danny Rand. I want you guys to rank them. I want you guys to tell me who your favorite actor is. Tell me the best performance.
I feel like you and I are going to
have.
have the same list with the top two switched.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that mine is going to be Christian Ritter is favorite, then Charlie Cox, then who plays
Mike Coulter.
Mike Coulter,
Yes.
then Finn Jones.
Okay.
I think Sarah's right, but it's really hard because Coulter and Cox are so close to me. Like they are so close to that.
Yeah, no, they're both really, really
and
good.
like all of them except Danny Rand. Again,
Well, here's the thing.
really close to each
Having
other.
not seen Iron Fist and coming into this, I think that Finn Jones actually does some really interesting work here. It must be hard for him as an actor because they have really moved the ground under his feet. Like, there's no strong sense of who Danny Rand is, I would argue, up until the 4th episode in this series.
I actually quite like him in the 4th episode. Like, whenever we get everybody, like, and I guess like the second half of the 3rd episode, whenever we've got them all in the restaurant, we'll get there here in a few minutes, I'm sure. A few minutes. We will get there eventually.
Not at this rate.
No, you're excited. This is going to be a 3-part series. But anyway, I quite like him there. I quite like him, like, put against, like, the other 3.
Yeah.
And when they're all together, I enjoy his character, but like separated and distilled, he's my least favorite. And the only reason why I would put Charlie Cox above Mike Coulter is because Charlie Cox does such a good job pretending to be a blind guy.
Yes, this is
that
exactly
he
what I
now
was going to say.
can't get hired for other acting jobs because he has difficulty looking people in the eye now.
It's extraordinary.
I did not know that. That's a great fact.
I completely agree. Charlie Cox is
He's so good at that.
Extraordinarily good. Fantastic as Matt Murdock. Fantastic in the Daredevil guys. He's just brilliant, and we get to do so much with him. And I love the way that the camera works with him as that scene when he's rehearsing his case, as he's pacing in his office rehearsing his case, and we get that shot of the sounds outside on the street, and it does the Daredevil thing where suddenly the camera gets real close to him and the depth of field gets real shallow, so it's not even covering his entire face, but his ear is in focus, and he manages to emote so much. And as an actor, he's responding to nothing. There is nothing there.
There's
in that
nothing
scene.
there, right.
And he's bringing everything to this characterization. I think he's just a knockout. For me, Kristen Ritter and Mike Coulter are pretty much on the same level, which is a very, very, very high level.
Right,
So it
exactly.
sounds like Alistair and I have the same list.
Yep. The other really cool thing about the show that I really enjoy, just talking about like our 4 separate main characters here, I love that whenever we are seeing everybody's individual scenes, that the like color overlay is their color.
Yeah, Vin and I were talking about this before we sat down to start recording the show. It's amazing. And it's not just the color, though the color is by far the most striking thing, because we get the cold blues for Jessica, and we get like this vibrant kind of, there's a lot of yellow and scarlet in Luke Cage's scenes, and we get this kind of washed out noirish tone in Matt's scenes, and this odd
weird sickly green.
Yeah, there's a lot of green in Danny's scenes, which I'm not entirely sure about. Like, I see what they're going for.
Is it supposed to be like just kind of like mysterious and
yes, exactly that, I think. But it's not just the color scheme, though it definitely is the color scheme, but the way we shoot it is
and
reflective of the individual series. It's just brilliant. This is most powerful for me in the fourth episode of the run, where we get to see these hard juxtapositions. Vinton, you brought up earlier the scene where Luke is coming down the stairs and he pulls his hood up,
and the lights are flashing in his color.
We get the yellow light, which is just magnificent, and then Jessica's coming up and she pulls down her hood,
she pulls down
and it's all in blue,
and it's flashing the same color. It's just maybe the best transition I've ever seen on television.
Yeah.
What's funny is this could easily fall to gimmick when you color filter this way. It could easily be a gimmick, but I think it actually is kind of an art form here. I think you could actually study this in a film class and how to make a film with these subtle notes that just make it so much deeper than you'd even notice, like to mess with parts of the brain and make you separate these characters in different ways without you even noticing that's happening.
Yeah, I don't even think I noticed until I don't think I noticed until like the second episode, and then I thought about it and I was like, oh, they've been doing this the whole time. I just hadn't picked up on it.
Right.
That's really cool.
So we get the scenes between Trish and Jessica. It just feels like a scene from Jessica Jones.
Exactly.
It's shot exactly like that. And
yes, absolutely.
I could just talk about that for an hour. I love it.
We mentioned the music. Luke Cage is known for his music, for the hip hop that runs throughout that show, and that's his cue that he's coming in the room. The part where they're in the boardroom later and Luke Cage is about to in the room, the hip hop starts, and you know Luke Cage is about to kick through the door.
That's such a good scene.
So
it is. We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Yes.
Okay.
So, going back to where we were in the episode, on his way back to New York, we see that Danny has been having nightmares about failing the mystical city of Kunlun. A woman played by Sigourney Weaver, who we will later learn is named Alexandra, is told that her organs are failing.
Yes.
Jessica Jones arrives at her office to a woman and her daughter asking Jones to find her missing husband. Jones could care less, thinking that the husband is just cheating, and dismisses the potential clients. However, a voice message on her phone tells her not to take the case, which helps her decide to look into it.
Bad play.
That's exactly what I said.
Bad play, you guys.
Yeah.
Don't tell Jessica that she shouldn't investigate something.
Right.
Like, do you not know her?
No,
Did you think this was going to intimidate
Like, why
her?
did you make this phone call? You didn't need to make this phone call. And she wouldn't have.
Yes.
My husband was like, well, the guy calling didn't know that.
Exactly. Jessica's office is still in shambles from the events from her own show. I think
so
it's worth
great.
noting.
All the damage
Now,
to her
I
office
thought that
is
her
brilliant.
door glass got replaced. Am I...
No, it gets replaced and then it gets broken again.
Oh,
Maybe in the
yeah,
last
I
episode.
forgot, I forgot.
Yeah. Cage returns.
Trish will pick up the bill for it. It'll be fine.
It's true. It's true.
She just has a glazier on retainer now. He's going to come in and just replace it every 3 or 4 days. Yeah.
Cage returns to Harlem and into the waiting arms of Claire Temple, the connecting thread between the shows here. However, he is eager to get back to cleaning up the streets of Harlem.
Okay. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about Luke Cage and Claire Temple. Let's talk about something that the Netflix shows get to do that nobody else gets to do in the MCU.
Which is the quasi-gratuitous sex scenes?
I don't even know that it's gratuitous. In this particular, there are gratuitous sex scenes in the Netflix series. Certainly, I don't think that this one is, because the intensity of the connection between Luke Cage and Claire Temple has to be sold immediately. Like, you have to get that immediately.
Right,
and if you don't, their relationship is not going to work for you. It's also, you guys, actually pretty hot, which is unusual for sex scenes on television. Like,
No, yeah, I do like this
worked for
one
me.
more than I like the one between Luke and Jessica in Jessica Jones.
That one felt gratuitous.
Yeah, that one always makes me feel a little skeevy.
Because they were playing that one to show, hey, look, these people are both super powered and now they can finally let loose having sex with each other.
Right, which is all I could think about whenever Luke Cage is having sex with Claire. I was like, so, like,
safe with her,
she's
please.
not super powered.
Gentle.
You're
Luke.
gonna break her in half.
Claire Temple
Very
can take
tall
it.
man.
I do appreciate that it's really quick, too. That we're not
Yeah.
just
No,
focusing
exactly.
on this
Yeah.
for no
Yeah.
reason for
20
like
seconds.
30 seconds or 40 seconds, you know? And then they go from there. That like talking afterwards, they get to talk about poetry and
Right. No,
her
it
stealing
does work
poetry.
for me. Yeah.
It's pretty great. It's pretty cute afterwards.
While we're talking about our actors, let's talk about Rosario Dawson as Claire
Oh
Temple.
my God, she's so good, and I love her.
There's a reason why they decided to make her in every show.
Yeah.
They was like, we want more of her, apparently, always.
Well, I mean, and that's exactly what happened with Clark Gregg and Phil Coulson, right?
Yeah.
Like, he just, shows up in Iron Man 2?
Iron Man 1.
Iron Man 1. And then the entire fandom is like, we want more Coulson. Please give us more Coulson.
Yeah.
We demand him. And Marvel's like, I don't, okay.
Okay. And his own
And
show.
everything?
I was just listening to a thing with the director of Thor the other day, and apparently he had a hand in that because he wanted Nick Fury to be in the Thor movie, and they were like, well, we can't give you Nick Fury because he just contractually, we can't give that to you. Can you come up with something else? And he's like, well, I really like Coulson. Can I bring Coulson back? And so that was one of the reasons Coulson got pushed further in, is because he made him a part of that movie.
That's awesome.
Going back after watching the later Marvel movies, but definitely after watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and looking at Phil Coulson in the first Thor movie, it's so good.
Yeah.
How Clark Gregg has that entire character down.
Yep.
He's completely consistent with like
It might just
end of
be
season
Clark
3.
Gregg.
Coulson, I choose to believe that is
Yeah.
the case. Clark Gregg is magnificent.
He's so good.
Yeah.
So on
Here
cue,
on the Clark Gregg fancast.
yeah, well,
Don't
we
you
can,
joke.
yeah, we can change the subtitle anytime we want.
Excelsior, a Clark Gregg fan cast.
That's great, because then we get to talk about the last 2 episodes of the Aaron Sorkin series Sports Night, where Clark Gregg shows up as a real Deus Ex Machina right at the end of that series.
He's
he shows
literally
up,
a god machine?
He is an enigmatic
literally a
billionaire
god
who
machine.
comes in to save the show, and he gets maybe 3 scenes and completely ruins the curve of that show, because suddenly his performance outshines, and he's acting opposite Felicity Huffman for most of his scenes in that show, and he's magnificent. Really crazy pointy sideburns, though. Anyway, that's enough for this mini episode of the Clark Gregg Fancast.
Then on cue, Misty Knight arrives to talk to Luke about what's been happening since he's been away. Matt meets his old assistant, turned reporter, Karen Page, and talks about her knowing his Daredevil secret and him retiring it. Karen does mention, as much as she struggles with his alter ego, that Daredevil did make the city a safer place. Jessica looks into the missing husband. Her neighbor and friend Malcolm helps her locate where the husband might be from tracing the call. Misty informs Cage that somebody is giving young people on the streets new jobs that end up getting them killed. She shows him a destroyed car that one man died in, who was the brother of a girl who died in Luke Cage's season. It gets a little complicated there if you don't know that backstory.
I like the way they built that, though. It didn't feel too exposition heavy. It felt pretty organic. Because, of course, we're getting a ton of exposition here for all of our heroes. But it works pretty well.
Yeah. She then encourages Cage to help the remaining sibling to avoid the same trouble. Matt goes to confession and talks about leaving behind his old life and the death of Elektra, which I really like the Matt confession scenes from Daredevil, so it's cool that we got one of those here as well. Yeah. Alexandra meets with Madame Gao, known for her villainous role in leading the Hand in Daredevil. The woman tells... a previous version of my notes had her called the woman until she was called Alexandra, and I was like, no, I'm just going to go back and replace all that. Apparently I missed one. Alexandra tells Gao that they must speed up their plans, even though it won't be quiet. Luke meets with the kid who lost his brother and sister to pay his respects and to get info on what happened, but the boy is remained tight-lipped. Cage notices that he seems to be doing well for himself and offers that he can help him, but the boy says it's too late for heroes and asks Cage to leave. I really like the moment where he says, I ain't your son, because immediately I hear, call me son one more time.
Me too. I
like-
think I said that out loud in my living room.
Yep. I said that out loud to my wife when she was there. I was like, call me son one more time.
I love Luke Cage as the hero of Harlem.
Yeah.
It's so great. And his commitment to this community, to the neighborhood, but to the people of the neighborhood primarily, is so strong. It's such a great perspective on this character. I just love it.
Right. This is where the great transition that we've already talked about comes in, where he walks down the stairs and throws the hood up, and Jessica Jones walks up and throws the hood down. It's just, man, I can't say enough about that
the
scene.
cinematography is so good.
It's beautiful. Jones finds where the husband was staying, but he isn't there, and the room is filled with explosives. And then we see this rooftop garden meeting between Alexandra and Gao. And there's the funny thing about this is the same rooftop where Spider-Man drops Mary Jane in the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie.
No.
Yeah, and then, with Mary J. Blige and everything going on. It's the same rooftop there. It's a famous rooftop to film on, I guess. It's also the same rooftop where Kingpin met Gao in the Daredevil series. And what's different about this, what's interesting, is it mirrors this scene, because Kingpin was waiting for Gao to come out and it was subservient to her and was like, almost like a child waiting to be in trouble by the principal.
Right.
And here Gao is in that same spot, sitting where he was sitting, feeling that same way as Alexandra comes out to show that she's subservient to Alexandra, and Alexandra is the leader here.
Yeah, that was something that I was able to kind of figure out, even though I haven't seen much of Daredevil. I knew a minimum amount of Madame Gao. I knew that she was like the big bad or whatever.
Right.
So I was like, oh, okay, so obviously what they're doing is they're showing us that, like, if Madame Gao is scared of Sigourney Weaver, we all need to be scared of Sigourney Weaver.
We should just all be scared of Sigourney Weaver at all times. Hasn't Sigourney Weaver had the most incredible career?
Yes.
I
Yes.
completely
Absolutely.
love
Yes,
this phase of her
anytime
career now.
she just shows up somewhere, I am always so thrilled. I remember watching Cabin in the Woods in the theater, and whenever she shows
Yep.
up
Yes.
at the end of as the director, and I was just like, this movie got even better.
Continuing her run of showing up at the end to make movies way better.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
I'm trying to connect this to Cabin in the Woods as she's playing the same character.
You know what?
That sounds like the hand, yeah.
I bet that's not hard. In fact, we should definitely do Cabin in the Woods as a Patreon exclusive because I love
Done.
that movie,
Done
and
deal.
we should absolutely do a commentary
Yeah.
track
Yeah.
on that film.
Well,
Yes.
you know, we've been talking about things to cover in the month of October.
For Spoopy Month.
Spectacular Excelsior month. I think Cabin in the Woods would be a really great one.
Well, yeah, and it was co-created by Drew Goddard, who has a
Yep.
huge hand in the Netflix Marvel
Yeah.
stuff.
He absolutely
so
does,
makes sense. So then a big earthquake hits New York, and we see it from each of the heroes' perspectives.
Yeah.
Cage saving the grieving mother, mourning her son's death at the death site, like car that we saw earlier. Then Alexandra is seen watching the chaos as she turns toward a resurrected Elektra, reassuring her, "It's just a city. You'll get used to watching them fall."
I like this very much. There are echoes here of Ra's al Ghul from
Yeah,
the Chris
yeah,
Nolan Batman
definitely.
trilogy, which I like a lot. I mean, the intent is very different, but there are definite echoes here, and
Yeah.
that works beautifully for me.
Yeah. And then we end this episode with Matt hearing all the chaos going on outside of his apartment after the quake. And he struggles with the desire to go to save lives. And the acting, again, as we mentioned before, Charlie Cox is really good at this.
Oh, yeah.
He's conveying so much with his face and that desire to want to put on the suit and go save lives.
Yeah.
And he just can't bring himself to do it. And he's fighting it so much. And then we get the credits for this
Yeah.
episode. And you're just left going, is he going to do it? What's he going to do?
And again, just from an acting standpoint, that was literally Charlie Cox just standing there in silence because
Yes.
they probably had not done like the audio mixing
Right.
yet for all
Definitely
these
not.
noises.
No, there's just
Definitely
the
not.
director standing off camera going, woo! Oh God, no! Somebody help me! Somebody!
Daredevil, save us!
Oh, Daredevil!
It is really great. I love too, like this moment of real vulnerability that we get from Matt as the earthquake is happening, where suddenly his senses presumably aren't as reliable as they always are, and he looks genuinely afraid, which I just adore. God, he's so good, so good. Even in a great cast, he stands apart from.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that brings us to episode 2, Mean Right Hook. This is again directed by S.J. Clarkson, written by Lauren Schmidt-Hisrich and Marco Ramirez. Lauren Schmidt-Hisrich was a co-executive producer on Daredevil season 2 and wrote 3 of those episodes. She was also a staff writer for The West Wing and working on 26 episodes of that show.
Yeah, the staff writers for The West Wing have kind of taken over the industry at this point. There are a lot of them.
Yeah.
That show burned through a writer's room because the first 4 seasons of that show were written entirely by Aaron Sorkin. So-
And I should mention, I shortened that. She was a staff writer for like 20 of those episodes, wrote like 4 of them, and then I guess created the story for 2 of them.
Yeah.
So we start off our episode right where we left off with Matt listening to the chaos outside, except now he's on top of the building because he couldn't resist. He's wanting to get a closer look,
Right.
a closer ear, a closer
Yeah,
here.
a closer
Sense?
look. Sense is good.
Sarah, no one can see you doing little air quotes.
Surely they can hear it
Just
in
like,
my voice.
just like Matt Murdock cannot see you doing those.
You know what? If Matt Murdock heard me go, look, he would hear air
He
quotes.
hears the air moving under your
He
fingers
does,
as you do
though.
it. He's like, I can hear your fingers moving.
Don't make
I
faces.
love how we have Matt siding with the looters here.
This is
so
really
good.
interesting to me.
Yeah.
So he hears that these kids have stolen something, and the shop owners are apparently trigger happy, shooting shotguns
Yeah.
and chasing these kids. What's interesting is he does like fight these shop owners after he realizes that they're going to shoot, because he tries to stop them. He's like, they're just kids, don't do anything, and they're going to shoot him. So he takes them both down. But that one kid is totally running away with a giant television.
Yeah, no, he definitely
and Matt
is.
does not chase him down. He's
Nope.
just like, nope, you can steal from the pawn shop, just don't shoot people.
Yeah, exactly. And I like that. I like that the Defenders are pitched as, you know, kind of noir-inflected heroes, that they have this sense of justice that has nothing to do with the law. They're here to protect people, to save people.
Right.
Even if those people are not the best people.
And I like in the acting here, there's this subtle thing that you can notice that he goes a little too far on that shop owner. He can't help himself. Like it's been too long since he fought for justice, and now he's just like letting loose too much, and he catches himself and he has to shake it off.
Yeah.
And there's a moment where he just shakes and then like walks away from it.
This is the
It's
other
really
thing.
nicely done.
It's crazy that Charlie Cox is so good during those very quiet moments as Matt Murdock.
Yeah.
But also manages to sell the physicality of the character
Yeah.
completely.
Right.
He's brilliant in the fight scenes.
Yeah. I also really like parkour Matt, just flipping through the movies. Because we're never going to get the Daredevil from the comics who is literally doing like aerial stunts through the
we don't
air.
have the budget for that. But he can
almost-
sure parkour across a rooftop. That's his real superpower.
Every amazing panel of Daredevil has him just like fully spread out gymnast style, like 100 feet above every building somehow.
A lot of flagpoles in New York just for Daredevil.
swinging
Yep.
because he has his...
Do you ever think he like runs into a Spider-Man web and like is just caught there for a few days?
Can
I
you
am
draw that for me?
certain
Yeah.
I need that. I need that in my life.
I just watched The Amazing Spider-Man. I just watched the first Andrew Garfield one again. And the sequence at the end of that movie where all of the crane operators in Manhattan swing their cranes out so that Spider-Man can
I
quickly get to the
forgot.
climax is literally the stupidest thing I have
Yes,
ever
absolutely.
seen.
And then he gets to the battle and is somehow completely revitalized and perfectly fine and didn't need any help at all because he can fully fight now.
Like,
Really
I get
bothered
it.
me.
I get that the spirit of New York infuses him. We did that with Tobey Maguire, and for all the problematic Christ imagery associated with that sequence, I like it. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. Yeah, okay, that's a New York I can get behind. But swinging the cranes out, you guys, I want to like that movie so much. And I will say, because I talked about Spider-Man, I've talked about The Amazing Spider-Man before on Excelsior. Andrew Garfield is way better than I gave him credit for. He's actually very good in that movie.
Plus, Emma Stone.
Emma
Andrew
Stone is
Garfield
really bad in that movie.
What?
Really bad. Really bad. I mean, the script that she gets is terrible.
Listen, guys, we don't have time. I want to talk about this,
Okay,
but we
we're
don't
going to
have
talk
time.
about The Amazing Spider-Man some other time. But I just watched it again, and yeah.
I'm sorry,
It's not her
mouth
fault.
agape Sarah. We cannot
I
continue
love
this.
Emma Stone. You look appalled at me. I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So meanwhile, Trish sees the devastation of the earthquake on her way to work and talks on her show with callers about it. However, when a geologist calls and says it could not have been an earthquake, higher-ups call to cut that call off
Yeah.
and stop her from talking about it. And
Does
we-
everybody work for bad guys,
Yeah,
ultimately?
pretty much, yes.
Are all CEOs villains?
Yeah, I really like this beat. There's a detail in the dialogue that I liked too, and I need to check with you, Vin, because I'm not sure exactly what's being referred to. When one of the callers is talking about the earthquake, they reference the incident.
yeah.
Are they talking about the Battle of New York?
They
Because
are.
The Battle of New York has a great name already. It's the Battle of New York.
Right. And it's been called the incident, I think, 4 or 5 times throughout
Really?
the Netflix shows. So we get
Is it
another
just
reference
the
to
Netflix shows?
I think maybe it was called that in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. once or twice too.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
I feel like it connects to something else as well. The thing that's really bothering me about this is at first, it seemed like a really good method when Netflix started to avoid saying, oh yeah, you remember Hulk over here. You guys know that we have Hulk, right? This is
Yeah,
connected.
Hulk.
Remember
This
when
is
the Chitauri
Thor
attacked?
and so it's a
And
way
then
to like
the Vulture took a Leviathan and got some power
Right.
cells. And remember all that?
keeping it vague is a way to get that from being tiresome and sound like name dropping. But when you keep it vague every single time you talk about it and just keep referring to the incident when everyone knows who the Hulk is, guys, just mix it up a little bit. Just say, I think it could have been the Hulk that caused that earthquake. We all know.
I mean, like, yeah.
He smashed up New York and
You think
other
that they
places
could at
multiple
least-
times. We know
Where
who
is
the
he?
Hulk
He
is.
hasn't been seen in years. He's probably off on some alien planet fighting with Thor for all I know.
I bet it was the blonde guy with the hammer would even be better than, I bet it was the incident again.
The incident.
The incident. Would you
you
like to
feel-
buy a video of the incident? Did you guys see the incident?
Because I feel like they could at least just be like, this could be the Avengers all over again, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
at this point, we've
Right.
had the Battle of New York, we've got the stuff in DC,
Yep.
which technically wasn't Avengers, but whatever. We've got Sokovia, I
Yep.
mean, like, there's just, I don't know,
Yeah,
it seems
mix
silly.
it up.
Yeah.
Mix it up a little bit because being vague over and over again with the same wordage is getting really tired.
They do a lot better with it in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I feel like. They do a pretty good
Yeah.
mix of vague or, like, literally name dropping, which at
Right.
the time you're like, oh, okay, they're name dropping. But, like, we literally do that in comics all the time.
Yeah.
And it's a huge strength of the, aggregate Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Now, all the
Yeah.
various versions, I guess we have 3 tiers of Marvel Cinematic Universe canonicity
Yes.
now. We've got the movies and we've got the Netflix series and we've got, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter, I suppose, also fills that network TV slot.
Yeah.
But we should be leveraging these connections, not downplaying them. And
Right.
it honestly confused the hell out of me because I wasn't sure that was the incident to which they were referring. I
Yeah.
thought, wait, did something happen in Daredevil season 2 where
Yeah.
New York was rocked by an explosion or no, it's
Yeah.
the Battle of New York. You
Yep.
guys.
Yep, they
The
just keep
incident
calling it
also
the
seems to
incident.
be playing it down like quite a lot.
Also, it feels kind of like they should be adding in the incident who shall not be named. Like,
also
it's like they're
it's weird.
scared of naming it. Like, we can't
Right.
say Battle of New York. That's not okay,
Who
guys.
decided that we would call it the incident? And also, I know that our timeline is wonky, but we're talking about something that happened like 8 years ago at this point, right? Or like
I don't think it was that long ago. Quite
unknown time in the past.
Unknown
We
time
have
in
yet
the
to
past.
see the effect that Marvel has on the timeline with
And I guess we
regard to
don't
Spider-Man
technically
Homecoming.
know when any of the Netflix series
But
take
surely
place.
about 2 years ago at least,
Sure,
because they
yeah.
mentioned it in Daredevil, and there's been some things that
Absolutely,
happened since
yeah.
then, so you can kind of trace somewhat of a timeline out of
Yeah.
it. There's no time to actually figure out the answers to these questions in the world, let alone on this podcast. So, Jessica Jones called the police on the explosives in the apartment that she found. Detective Misty Knight sees her taking some evidence as she leaves the scene, but can't catch up with her. Colleen Wing tries to convince Danny that they might have allies in this fight against the Hand, which this scene feels really unnecessary to me, guys. It really seems like a tease for the team that we already know is going to be formed. Like, if this was an Iron Fist show and they wanted to tease that they were going to bring in other members, great way to do it right here.
Yeah.
This show is
This
literally
is
called
literally
The
called the
Defenders.
Defenders, and we know
this
that the
is
team is forming.
Colleen calling up like the Netflix menu and saying, like tapping meaningfully on the screen and saying, "This show's called The Defenders, though, Danny. We should probably check that out."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, unnecessary, and I'm not sure where she's getting this information from. She does have a lead to a katana shop that they should check out, though.
You know, your regular New York City katana shop.
Mystical
One of the
katana
neighborhoods.
shop.
Mystical katanas are us over on 63rd
Danny,
in
there's
New
this
York.
katana shop that I failed to mention you the whole first season that we were talking together and tracing down the Hand.
and
I
that
think
I
it could be
totally
a
know
lead.
about in New York. You know.
Maybe we didn't need to go like to China and Brazil and all these other places to chase down the Hand. We could have just gone to this katana shop.
Could've just done
Hattori
it right
Hanzo
here.
lives
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
I'll
Tori Hanzo.
take it. Getting Danny back to New York, getting him connected. I'll take it as a conceit, but yes, we're kind of stretching
I want
credulity a
Kill
little
Bill
bit
to
there.
be in the
I was
Marvel
just
universe.
about to say we're going to run into the bride there. So
I need to watch those movies again.
Luke Cage helps clean up after the quake, and Claire helps.
He sure does.
He sure does.
He sure does. That is the best polystyrene rubble that I have seen since maybe the original series of Star Trek.
Yeah.
It looks really good until he puts that thing down and it moves of its own accord. So, yeah, that
Yeah.
thing clearly weighs 4 pounds.
There's
Good
also
job.
a moment where Jessica is walking through her apartment with a completely empty coffee cup, like banging into things. You can just tell it's so empty.
That is a
drives
pet
me
hate.
crazy.
I don't
I know.
understand.
Just
Put some
put
water in it.
water
Put
in
water
it.
in it. I'll never
I know.
understand it
I
because you
know.
can always tell when the coffee cup's
Drives
empty.
me
You can
crazy.
always tell.
I was
Anyway.
like,
Oh, yeah.
even in high school drama classes, and like in high school productions, they're like, no, at least put water. Like, it's,
It
our
needs
director
weight.
used to get so mad at us. She'd be like, why are you waving around like there's nothing in it? We're like, well, there's nothing in it. And she's like, no, in real life, but not in the show.
something in it.
Put
I know.
something in
There's
it.
definitely a Tumblr blog out there that chronicles all the occurrences of heroes in TV shows wielding empty Starbucks coffee
There
cups.
should be.
Yeah.
So Claire is helping people with their injuries. I like that moment. It's not really connected to the show. It's not really necessary, but I like that they're showing that even Claire is like out there doing her job. This is what she lives for. She
Yeah.
helps heroes. She helps people. She's there to help medically.
And it manages to sell the idea that this really is an attack on New York. Again,
Yeah.
we get New York as a real presence in this
Right.
show, which is perfect. That's completely appropriate and arguably completely necessary. I love New York as a backdrop for the 616 universe, and for the Netflix side of the Marvel universe, I think it works really well.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Alexandra enjoys a personal string performance showing that she's very, very rich
This was
and
God, such a good scene.
very
Oh, man.
knowledgeable about musical history in a way that shows that she might have been there.
I love these hints being dropped. I
Is
thought.
this a hint or is this? Oh yes, no. I knew Brahms personally.
Also, I'm
Guy
a
was kind of a
billion
dick.
years old.
But that scene's beautifully filmed. I love when they just
it's
swing the
gorgeous.
camera over the string quartet. I'm just like, oh, I like this.
All they
What is
needed was
this?
Amy Acker on the cello.
That really feels too like a set that I've seen in something else.
Yeah, it
like,
does.
I kind of spotted
Yeah.
the garden. I recognized the garden from Daredevil and thought that it looked familiar. But yeah, this set looks very familiar too.
I was reading an Easter egg article and they mentioned this set. But what's funny is the guy that was running it was from New York. And so he mentioned the set just to say that Sigourney Weaver's apartment in Ghostbusters is just 2 blocks to the left. And so if you just go 2 blocks to the left, that's where she was. And then you could see something out of the window that was someone else's place from another movie. And I was like, that's cool. It's getting it from like someone from New York's perspective. So he knows where everything's located just by looking at the scene.
I could really see doing one of those geek tours of New York.
That would be so cool. Is that a thing?
Yeah, this is where they shot the climax of Spider-Man 2. This is where, the Baxter building is in real life. In the MCU, this building is owned by Tony Stark. I mean, I'm kind of into that. That seems pretty good.
Yeah, definitely.
You can stand on the spot in Times Square where Cap and Nick Fury stand at the end of the first Avenger. You could do
Absorb
that thing.
their power.
We could recreate that scene.
Well-
Patreon.com/Common Room Radio. get us to New York and we will recreate the end of Captain America, the First Avenger.
Among other things.
Among other things.
Gao shows up and tells Alexandra that there is an impenetrable wall blocking their access to whatever they're trying to get access to. Alexandra says it's only a lock put there by Kunlun and that that the key is obvious.
Yeah. I like this. I could have used, for all the times that we're breaking the POV of the Defenders in this, I could have used the glimpse of this mysterious wall. Like, give us a cutaway. That could have been the start of the episode. Give us a cutaway to whoever's working for the Hand in or around Kunlun finding this wall.
Slight spoilers for the rest of the show. They don't do a good job of telling you what the Hand actually wants to do.
Okay, all right.
They just don't ever do that. I mean, you get some more, but they don't fully ever explain. You're left going,
figured it out.
What?
The wall is guarding those ancient gods in Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's why there was an earthquake, because, the gods shifted in their sleep.
It turns out that the only way of penetrating the wall is to get the Chance Lance. That's an Adventure Zone joke. That was, again, just for me. And also for you guys. But
Jones looks through files trying to trace the company that the missing husband was working for, but she finds only endless shell companies.
This was a long sequence of the same 3 shots over and over and over again.
One of those files, though, is Yoshioko, which is the last name of the Daredevil villain, Nobu.
Nice.
Nice little weird Easter egg.
I like that we're leaning on Jessica's proficiency as a PI.
Right.
Yes.
No,
You
and
really
I
have to
love
establish that her capability is not punching people powerfully or pulling cars around. It is
she's
something
a legit
else.
PI.
She's serious business.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is great, and I'm super into that. But seriously, this is like a
It is a
3-minute long
shot.
sequence, and it's over and over and over again. Pull open the Dewey Decimal cabinet, go to the other filing cabinet. And it's like for all I know, it's literally the same 3 shots for like 90 seconds.
They're wanting you to feel what Jessica is feeling.
I
That
guess
she's just locked in here forever.
The last 3 chapters in friggin' Deathly Hallows all over again.
Meanwhile, Matt and Foggy catch up at Josie's bar, their old hangout. Foggy offers him some cases where he can bring justice to take his mind off crime fighting. Jessica's lawyer friend, Hogarth, encourages her to give up this case that she's on because it's deep and could get Jessica in trouble. Hogarth later asks...
Hogarth know about that?
Wow. That's
very
a good question.
Hogarth later asks Foggy to keep an eye on Jones and to keep the trouble she gets into far away from her business.
I love that scene. The scene between Hogarth and Foggy, these are 2 of my favorite minor characters in the Netflix series. It's just so good. I love it.
Jerry Hogarth, my gay lawyer mom.
Yes.
Luke shakes down Turk, who is a recurring character from the other shows, about what's been going on in Harlem. Turk tells him that it's some guy known as White Hat and gives him a location. And I really like this exchange here. If this isn't the truth, I'll be back and then you won't like me. And he goes, I don't like you now.
That was really good.
It is a really good scene. And I love that the
Turk is kind of delightful.
primary villain now is the White Hat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Generally a shorthand used for heroes
Right.
in stories which
Yeah.
have more simple moral
Yes.
aspects.
Absolutely.
But these heroes are standing in the shadows. That's what the Defenders
Morally
should do.
ambiguous.
Morally ambiguous. I'm into that.
Danny and Colleen check out the sword shop to find it filled with dead bodies.
Whoops.
They notice a painting of Kunlun, and then a crew comes in to get rid of the bodies. As Jones returns to her office, the missing husband has a gun to Malcolm's head there. He is worried that Jessica is with, quote, them. He is paranoid that they will come after his family. Then
Pronoun
Elektra
game.
shows up, and he kills himself.
Yeah.
Elektra kung fu's Jones and disappears quickly. Then Misty finds Jones outside.
Yeah. I admire Jessica's pluck here, chasing after Elektra. I don't know what's going to happen if she catches Elektra. That seems
She's
like she
gonna
hasn't
kick her
thought.
ass.
I'm not sure that's true.
Jessica's got
actually.
super strength.
She
doesn't have karate, but
No
she
karate.
is super
Karate.
strong.
We do kind of learn that having karate helps fight against super strength, but doesn't always win the fight.
True. I love the crash into Misty, though. That's so great.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, come on. As if you probably gave your address to those cops before you stole the evidence. You knew this was coming.
Simone Missick as Misty Knight is a
She's
constant
so
delight.
good. She's wonderful.
Every scene, every line, just
She's one of the best things about Luke Cage as well when you get to that.
Yeah.
She's
I'm
really
in.
good.
Have
I'm
you
already
seen
convinced.
the promo shot of her robot arm in Luke Cage season 2?
Spoilers, but yes.
Yeah, it looks pretty
It's fantastic.
baller.
Yep, she finally gets a robot arm from the comics. Also,
Excellent.
hopefully leading us more towards Daughters of the Dragon.
That's all I want.
That would be real good.
Anyways.
Yeah.
I really like the Elektra's sword cutting through all the locks in the door.
Yes.
That was beautiful. I
Very
love that
good.
shot. It's like, yeah, that's a cool idea. I like
Yeah.
that. I've never seen that done before. I'm sure it has been, but
didn't watch Daredevil, so I don't have a lot of knowledge about Elektra, except that I don't really care about her.
Elektra, rich girl turned deadly assassin, falling in love with Matt, kind of devil may care, getting Matt into trouble all the time, trained by Stick as well, and part of this group against the Hand, and died in Daredevil season 2.
Generic ninja assassin.
Yeah, I don't really care.
Yeah, me neither. Not in the comics, not in the show. I'm sorry,
All right,
guys.
well.
I just don't too much.
I mean, we're
know
getting
people
an
do.
interesting perspective on her here in that she isn't really Elektra. Or
Yeah, now she's the
will
Black
be Elektra.
Sky.
Obviously, we're building up to that. But yes,
Yeah.
you're right.
Making
now
hints
she's
very
this
early on.
brainwashed assassin and is at least physically intimidating. She works really well in the fight scenes, I thought.
Okay,
You're less convinced?
her fighting, like the fight scenes look really good. It's just that I guess because like I don't have a background, like I look at this fight between like Jessica and Elektra, which doesn't last terribly long, and I'm just like, this is dumb. Why is Jessica not winning this fight? Except that she's just not skilled in martial arts,
And she just didn't know what to expect.
I guess so, yeah.
And it's true. I mean,
And
just
I
because
don't
you're
know.
super strong doesn't mean you're trained at all in fighting.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
As Danny and Colleen attack the cleanup crew, Danny interrogates a kid that was part of the crew who turns out to be the sole surviving sibling that Cage was looking out for. And Cage just happens to show up and fights Danny.
This is so good. This was my favorite thing about the entire series.
It was pretty great.
Up to this point. All I want to watch is Luke Cage not being beaten up by Danny Rand. It is the best
This is
thing.
the thing. The first two episodes both have the same pattern. I'm immediately hooked. And then they start to lose me because it's a lot of exposition and I'm not getting
Right.
my defenders. I'm not
Yeah.
getting the show that I was promised you guys. I'm getting four
Yeah.
separate plot threads and that's
Yes.
fine. But then at the end of the episode, they bring it together in a way that really compels me. It's the earthquake in the first episode and here Danny Rand wailing on Luke Cage who could not give less of a damn about it.
His annoyance at this kung fu that's not working is delightful.
Yes.
Then when we get the Iron Fist and he actually punches Luke and we get the reaction there is so perfect. The slow-mo punch is
Right,
brilliant.
and having not seen Luke Cage, you don't notice that this is a callback to Luke Cage because in Luke Cage, someone punches him in the face like that. They go slow mo. It's the same exact shot for shot scene, except slow mo. That man's hand shatters as it's hitting Luke Cage's face, and he just stands there and takes the punch. And
I
he's like,
didn't think I could love that more, but I love that more.
Now it's calling back to hear that Danny can actually hurt Luke and punch him hard enough that it can do some damage.
and hurl him across the alley,
Yeah,
which
hurl
is
him
pretty
across
great.
the alley.
Man, okay,
Yeah.
that immortal Iron Fist thing is actually pretty impressive.
bad.
Then.
Yeah, not bad.
Okay.
So one of the only times I want to jump back into the comics just for a moment here, as we mentioned, this is a classic Marvel trope of heroes having to fight before they can ever team up, for one.
Yes.
But also these two characters have been intertwined since Power Man number 48 in 1977. Power Man being Luke Cage's comic book codename, as we mentioned. The comic Power Man and Iron Fist, their team-up comic ran from 1977 to 1986, and the two characters have rarely ever been apart when they show up in comics for the 30 years since.
Wow.
It is maybe my favorite example of a genuine comic book friendship.
Yeah.
Power Man and Iron Fist just being bros is pretty great.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, and
into that.
friendships are always like some of the most interesting things that you can do in narrative. I think that like friendship is more interesting than like romantic relationships.
Right.
Certainly harder
and
to do, yeah.
Yeah, harder to do and frankly I think a lot more satisfying generally in the long run. And so yeah, no, I am excited to see these two become buds and become bros. Like I think it's going to be really
And
good.
in the comics, and I think that they start doing a good job of this in the show, they present a nice foil for each other. They're different, and those differences
Yes.
do rub against each other, and you see just an interesting relationship, an interesting chemistry brought out of that.
The scene that we get in episode 3 between the two of them, for all that it's just a sitting around talking scene, is maybe my favorite in the series
It's
so far.
pretty
Very good.
So the police show up, and as Wing, Rand, and Cage escape, the young kid Cage was looking out for is arrested. Elsewhere, Alexandra confronts a captive Stick, which that sounds weird. She confronts the character named Stick from Daredevil.
It's just a twig
It's
that
just a
in
twig.
chains.
Now, this is Scott Glenn playing Stick, and I saw him in the one episode of Daredevil that he appears in the first season, but I know that
Right.
he recurs in
he's a
Daredevil
way bigger
season
character
2.
too.
I get the sense that some viewers are somewhat fatigued by Stick, and I think you're
I'm
perhaps
slightly, yeah.
less impressed with him than I am. I love this dude. When he shows up, I am so glad to see him again, and he so immediately charms me. It's
Which is the
amazing.
exact way I felt when he showed up in season 2. I was so excited. I was like,
Okay.
this is great. I love this. And then after like 3 episodes of him, I was like, I'm so done.
I have
fair.
No opinion on Stick.
No opinion at all?
Nah.
Not even from what you see here? Not even when he cuts his hand off?
I mean, I was like, damn.
So then we pick back up with Jessica being interrogated by Misty Knight, but she's bailed out by her lawyer, Matt.
I love this scene so much.
Which they don't say, but they clearly led up to that he was given the case by Foggy from Hogarth to bail out Jessica from this trouble.
Keep any of Jessica's trouble far away from Hogarth's company. This is Foggy's doing it right. This is smart.
Yeah, and that's the end of episode 2. Leading us to episode 3, worst
Who the hell
behavior.
Are you? I'm your lawyer. Side eye.
Side eye is Jessica's default eye.
That's true. Yeah. Resting side eye.
Yes.
Episode 3, worst behavior, directed by Peter Horror. And it's written by Hisrich again and Petrie. Peter Horror directed 3 episodes of Daredevil season 2, an episode of Iron Fist, and A Good Man Goes to War episode of Doctor Who, actually.
Wow.
What?
And a whole bunch of other shows I'm not familiar with whatsoever. But I thought that Doctor Who one was really interesting.
That's
and that's the only episode
episode
he's directed of Doctor Who, which I thought was also really interesting.
There have been many Doctor Who comics. We can talk about Doctor Who anytime we like on
That's
Excelsior.
true.
We'll have to have friend of the show, Caleb Gibbs,
We definitely will.
guest on that. Wow, words.
Yeah, don't make promises we can't keep on air.
Friend of the network, Leslie Skipa.
Fucking game night going.
We can call out Skipa. I don't know if next year we're gonna be friends with Gibbs. Let's be honest.
Don't put this in the Gabriel.
I just like the idea of picking one person and just deciding that the other person's too dangerous. We can't be for sure.
Too dangerous for Common Room Radio.
Okay. We start the episode with not quite a clear flashback. It's not quite clear that's what we're doing here, but that's what it is. Where Alexandra meets with a man fitting the description of the White Hat who tells...
Wait, this was a flashback?
Yes, this was a
because
flashback.
this is a direct prequel to the resurrection of Elektra.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it leads us into that whole thing, but you're right. It is not clear at
it
all
doesn't
right at the
say
beginning of the
anything.
episode. That
She's
this
just-
Could have
is-
at least just been like
some time
6
ago.
months ago.
Yeah.
Then,
and
now.
He tells her that they have Black Sky. Black Sky is the weapon that they were after in Daredevil season 2, where we found out that Black Sky was Elektra, who died in the season.
So is the Black Sky a title?
I don't remember enough about Daredevil season 2 to answer this
No
question.
idea.
Okay.
It's her name.
It's
It's
cute
a weapon.
nickname.
Here's the
because
thing.
I
is
don't
that
think
every
it's only
time-
her.
Every time they were like, the Black Sky, I just thought of Daisy Johnson from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I was just like, Sky, Daisy, man, I gotta watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. again.
Black Daisy.
Black Daisy. I mean, like Goth
Less
Daisy.
threatening.
Yeah.
Somewhat less threatening.
The Black Daisy, not
Black
very
Daisy,
threatening.
yes.
The Black Daisy murders.
They were real cute.
Alexandra calls Istanbul Constantinople just to unsubtly hint that she's very ancient again.
Yeah, I get it at this point.
Yeah.
I get
unnecessary.
it. It's cute, but I get it.
We see that the Hand resurrected Elektra using the last of their resources to do such a thing.
Just so much blood. They ran out of
Yeah.
blood. They're
They
out
ran
of
out.
blood.
And while her memory appears to be mostly lost, her deadly skills are intact, showing her kill a whole gaggle of armed opponents in the dark during training.
It's nice that they put us through a video game tutorial here.
Yeah,
Fight this
it
one
really
guy
is.
with a stick. Now fight 3 guys with a stick.
Here's
now
a quick
5
time
guys
event.
with a
Hit
stick.
the A button.
Hit the
Now
A button.
ninjas. It reminds me absolutely of the intro to the Batman Arkham Asylum game.
Yes.
Where you were put in a
absolutely.
room with an increasing number of opponents so that you can practice tapping Y to counter their attacks. It's a pretty great game, as it turns
It
out.
is a pretty good game. We also see that Alexandra is also a skilled fighter who wins
Love
over.
that. God,
Yeah.
it was so good.
Yeah, it was really good. I don't
please
think she
show
would
me
have-
more of Sigourney Weaver kicking people's asses.
Yeah.
And
I
also
don't-
being super nurturing, evil
Yeah.
Snake.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say was that Elektra is won over by Alexandra because of her childlike amnesic state. Alexandra nurtures her and wins her over. And so she doesn't question too much of why she's there or should she be doing what this person says, because it's almost like she's becoming her mother in a certain way.
This, I think, was the moment when I realized I want Alexandra to be like my supervillain mom.
I just want that sweet jacket. Can she give me that sweet jacket and tell me that's who I am? This is who you are. Oh, that's sweet. I like this jacket. It's
You
a
know
good
that they
jacket.
cost like $8,000.
Yeah. Well, it's who you are. It's got to be worth
You
a lot
are
of money.
$8,000 worth
You
of
are
fabric.
this jacket. This is all that you are. I don't.
This is
that
not
line
who
is
you
kind
are.
of weird.
You know who you are.
You are dry clean only.
You got it dirty. How dare you?
Yeah,
Burn it.
don't get blood on this jacket, please.
No.
I know you're an assassin. Don't do it.
Also, you're like drowning in chocolate syrup blood right now.
When choosing a weapon, the lecturer pauses over a pair of sai because these were her trademark weapon before dying and in the comics. The old her is quite clearly still in there somewhere.
I still don't care.
I specifically don't care because, God, this trope has been done to death.
Yeah. Yes.
She's just going to have a moment of epiphany later in the series where she realizes who she always was. And yeah.
Like, I would
I'm
bet
really trying to
$50
care,
right
but
now that at some point she looks at Daredevil and just goes, Matt?
Is there not
Does that happen?
a
You've seen the whole
really
show.
compelling argument to replace Elektra with, let me check, literally anyone? Literally anyone. It's not as though we're short on, Asian assassins in the MCU.
Well, clearly we are. They're all being whitewashed.
That's fair.
Well,
fair.
to be fair, Marvel has had a big history of proving that their version of any kind of Asian country is all Yakuza and ninjas.
Yeah, that's true.
That's all that exists over there.
That's true. That's true. I spent some time in Japan with Wolverine. I know what's up.
Yeah, it's not really the best of viewpoints on a whole culture.
That's fair. It was either going to be Elektra or Lady Deathstrike. It was one of those.
Is she the Mantis one?
Yep, that's her.
In the present, Alexandra interrogates Stick. She asks him where the Iron Fist is, and Elektra puts a sword to Stick's throat. Stick manages to take the sword from Elektra and escape by cutting his own hand off.
I'm still not sure how he did this.
It's a great sequence, though.
Carefully.
I'm really charmed by it. And then when we get the swinging light, I don't know who hit that light in the first place to make it swing, because it's quite a ways up there. But the swinging light revealing the severed hand on the ground is a great shot.
He
really
threw
gross
the hand up, and it hit the light and then fell.
He cuts the hand, it goes flying. Not the actual hand, not the gang the hand, but his
his hand.
His actual
His
literal
little
hand.
hand.
Yes. And then we get this brilliant beat right at the end of that sequence where Sigourney Weaver just says, "Son of a bitch."
And he's like in the ventilation and gone.
So
It's just like,
good.
oh, he just crawled through that
She's
vent.
just like, I'm getting too old for this shit.
I'm a million years old.
I'm a
Did I
million
mention
years
I'm a
old.
million years old?
Istanbul. No, Constantinople.
Istanbul was once
Istanbul
Constantinople.
was Constantinople.
Yes. They might be giants.
Yeah, no,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
What the listener at home is sensing right now is all of us refusing to just go into that bit. We're just not going to do it. It's fine.
But I want it real bad.
I know, we all do.
Back with Matt and Jessica. He tells her that she can leave, but she can't leave town. He tries to get her to talk about what happened, but she refuses. She leaves and he follows her. I do like this one line that he has here where he says, "I'm Catholic. I have a soft spot for hopeless causes."
It's very good. And him inviting her to talk about, the weird stuff that is going on. And is this unusual? I like it.
Yeah.
It's a good scene.
Jones talks to the wife of the now dead husband for information, continuing her investigation, and she sees his architect award. She notices Matt following her as she leaves. And
God, this sequence is really good.
yeah, and she
I
turns
like
the
this
tables
one a
on him,
lot.
which I've tried to follow what's going on in that. And I don't know what she does, but she somehow loses him and then follows back around, which is just really cool.
I think she just cuts through an alley super quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or ducks into a store.
But yeah,
or
I really
something.
like that she turns the tables on him there,
Yeah.
losing him and following him instead. She sees him parkour away in an alley and takes pictures of that.
As he's filtering her footsteps behind him, which
right.
I just love.
We get our obligatory Stan Lee cameo here. Did you guys notice that?
I did,
There-
yes.
he
He's
is,
in the cafe, right?
no, he's on a big poster as a police officer, on both sides. When they show it from Jessica's side on one side of the poster, and then when they show it from Matt Murdock's perspective, it's on the other side.
Oh no, I totally missed that actually.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't
really
even know that
nice.
he was contractually obligated to show up in the Netflix
I don't know that
series.
he is. I think
Yeah,
it's
he's
more a
only
question-
shown up in photographs so far. So.
Okay.
Can you stop him from showing up? Is the real question.
Guess not.
Cage talks with Claire about what happened, and she realizes he is talking about Danny being the person who punched him. So she sets up a meeting. Cage and Danny do not get along, and it's hilarious.
Yup.
Yes.
They start to get along, learning each other's backstories a little, but then Cage calls out Danny for being a selfish, privileged, rich white boy and not understanding how it can be for kids in rough neighborhoods, how he is taking this war to the bottom instead of to the people at the top, and tempers flare up.
Yeah.
We get this line here. You may think you earned your strength, but you had power the day you were born. Before the dragons, before the chi, you have the ability to change the world without anybody getting hurt.
Yeah.
And he says, if I were in your shoes, I'd think twice about using that thing on people who are just trying to feed their families.
It's fantastic. It's such a powerful deconstruction of the whole question of privilege
Yeah.
as related to the Iron Fist series. I love that we give Luke this moment of real social awareness. And most importantly, I love that we give Danny a little self-awareness because he is obviously struck by this. He is obviously moved by this. That is going to have zero effect in the rest of this episode. But hey, you guys, I'm hopeful for Danny Rand. I think we might be able to turn him into a better version of this problematic character by the end of the series.
Which is kind of what I had hoped after his series was over, that when he met Luke Cage, that this would just bring a new dynamic to who this character was, make him more likable, and the duo themselves would become something that people could really enjoy, even if they couldn't enjoy Luke Cage, or even if they couldn't enjoy Danny by himself.
Yeah,
right.
I like that.
Cage leaves, but Danny takes what he said somewhat to heart, deciding to use his company's power instead of the Iron Fist to fight this war.
Kinda. We'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
But kinda.
Danny uses his company to trace the hand back to a company called Midland Circle. The reactions of Colleen and Claire, by the way, throughout the whole event of the two of them talking and then him storming out, there's so much eye rolling.
Yep.
It's so fantastic.
So good.
Just boys. Ugh.
That's kind of the show I want. It's just the two of them hanging
right?
at Misty Night.
Yeah.
And
Netflix is a little ignorant in the fact that we really just want more of those ladies.
Yes.
Cage visits the locked up kid and he tips him off to buy lotto tickets for his mom if he wants to help him. Cage does so, and in the tin that the boy keeps all the old tickets, finds a wad of cash and a clue leading him to Midland Circle's building.
This scene is so hard to watch.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. We find out that the kid was then killed in prison, and watching that mother's reaction to losing her last surviving child is heartbreaking.
The actress does an amazing, like utterly gut-wrenching, astonishing
She needs some
job,
kind of
but
award.
God, that scene is hard to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took me a little while to figure out exactly what was happening and to understand that the cash was not from the lottery tickets, but this was obviously his payment from working for the hand. But yeah, it's really strong. And you're right. The performance,
And
really
this
tough to
is,
watch.
if you've seen Luke Cage and you were watching this, you see her at the beginning. She's being really strong. She's at the site of where her other son died, and she's being really strong. But then losing her final child, like she has no more children.
Yeah.
And she's outlived all of her children. Got to watch all of them die, and she just can't. It's so rough. And that actress really deserves an award. That has to be really hard to do properly, and she nails it. Jones has a meeting with the architect group that the dead husband worked for, and finds out that he built a building for Midland Circle.
Bum, bum, bum.
Also, I really like the character that she uses whenever she's like disguising her voice on the phone. They're here in this meeting where she's just like, oh my gosh, yeah, this is going to be great. Let's get
so
this
much
thing.
fun
And
because-
you know those ball chairs that people don't really like and find really annoying? Let's have some of those.
that character, though, is the character that Kristen Ritter played in Veronica Mars, Gia.
Yeah, and it's also, I
exactly
heard,
the
the
same.
character she plays on another show, isn't it? Like, Don't Trust the
Don't
Bee?
Trust the Bitch in Apartment 23.
Yeah. It's just great. I could watch Kristen Ritter do that basically infinitely. Yeah.
Stick arrives at Wing's dojo weak from his injury. Danny goes to Midland Circle's building and is escorted to the CEOs of the company in the penthouse. He tells them that he knows they are the hand and he is there to stop them.
Okay.
This scene
I'm sorry, I had to say it that way.
Then,
astonishing.
what is his plan? What does he think is going to happen?
He's gonna Iron Fist them, I guess. Punch them right in their faces. all of them.
Just all of the CEOs
he
in
does.
turn?
He
My
does go on
favorite-
to say that his company's building a case against their company. I'm not sure what he expects to
I
happen.
don't know.
There,
He's like gonna sue them for being villains. My favorite part of this is that you're watching this and you're looking at all these folks in suits and it's just like, okay, they're not gonna believe him. Like, obviously, this is like a total jerk or whatever. But then they all whip out their martial arts
Okay,
batons.
but that's skipping like way ahead.
Yeah,
Because first
yeah.
of all, Alexandra just walks up and puts her hand on his shoulder. And is like, Danny, it's so nice to see you.
Danny.
Why don't you continue telling us what you plan to do? And she just sits on the desk.
You're
I'm just
exhibiting
like,
more
what is
discipline
happening
than I
here?
expected.
Yeah, it's just like the way she is in control of this
Danny,
situation.
your
It's
evil
just like,
villain stepmom
whoa.
is disappointed in you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mom.
Sorry, Mom.
Danny,
I'll do better.
and she tells him, please continue. And Danny explains that his company has put together some kind of case to take them down for their illegal activity and reveals, I am the Iron Fist. And Jones arrives and Matt enters behind her, grabbing her arm and telling her that we need to leave right now.
We gotta go.
Which we get that awesome line. If you grab me again like that, I'll punch you so hard you'll see. And then she says, you're the most full of shit lawyer I've ever met. And I think we should appreciate the magnitude of that statement. She threatens
so
him with
clever.
pictures that she took of a blind man doing parkour up the side of a building.
smashes
And
her
he just
camera.
smashes the camera. Just koosh.
How expensive is a camera? And like, is like
Very expensive.
Yeah, like-
I mean, I don't know what kind of camera she had there. I'm not sure, but
we're talking
a
like-
professional, somewhat professional, even not even like
Yeah.
super professional camera. It costs at least $1,000.
yeah.
And if you're getting like a nice professional one that you could probably do PI work with, you're talking $3,000 to $5,000.
Yeah.
I love that we see it from across the lobby. I love the way this whole thing is shot.
Yeah,
It's
and
great.
I love that when you watch, you can clearly see that the camera is focused on her walking into the building, but you can see Matt running in from the side to grab that door.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
So it's a really just a great, like, oh yeah, there he is coming.
I should say too, I'm critical of Danny Rand being here because he doesn't have a plan. There is a gaping, absence where a plan should be. But that's the plot and the script kind of underserving this character, because we motivate everyone else really well, and we motivate Danny with a nod. He should have had a real plan here. There should have at least have been an ultimatum. My company is putting together a case that is going to sink your company. Stop what you're doing and leave New York right now. He should actually have wielded his financial power here to try and get the hand. But he doesn't, and it just leaves him looking.
I choose to believe.
Oh boy!
Yeah, I choose to believe that he had that plan. This is the guy that doesn't have more than a 5th grade education that's running a company, though. So he just showed up and got real angry. He's like, "I'm the Iron Fist, guys. I'm gonna take all you down.
I'm gonna fight you.
And
I'm gonna fight you.
Fight you."
And then Sigourney Weaver was like super chill and really, no, please continue. And it just totally threw it. Like.
So the assistant who brought Danny up to the room pulls a silenced gun on him, and as he subdues her, 2 shots are fired. Matt hears them down from the lobby and takes Jones's scarf to cover his face and runs off toward the penthouse. The whole boardroom gets up and begins to fight Danny. As Sarah mentioned, they pull out those nightsticks, which is not what you want to see. That's not what you want. There's a whole boardroom of people pulling nightsticks on you.
Bad board
No,
meeting.
yeah, it's bad. I just came to discuss some numbers, and I'm feeling really attacked right now.
And have the quarterly sales reports. What?
Fuck your sales reports, Todd.
Those sales reports did not go well. As Alexandra steps out, they eventually pile on Danny
Just
Rand.
bye.
Yeah. I like when they bring out the dart gun and start shooting him. He starts pulling them out and throwing them back at him.
I
It's a
really
cool
like
scene.
this fight sequence.
Yeah, it's a good
I
fight
think it's
sequence.
great.
It's really good. Yeah.
They eventually do pile him down on him and are holding him down on the desk. And then we get this great music cue come in as Luke Cage kicks in the door. Eventually they are surrounded and they strike a really cool pose with Danny's glowing iron fist. I love it. It's fantastic.
Pretty great.
Yeah, I love it.
I don't know if that's a reference. It feels like that is a reference to every single comic cover for Power Man and Iron Fist. I don't know for sure that that's true, but it's got the framing that makes me think that we're evoking something that's been on a comic cover at some point.
And I like the dialogue here. So punching is okay now? It's complicated.
Yeah.
It is,
Well,
in fact,
this is the
complicated.
definition of punching up, I think, at this point. They're doing good. Yeah.
I love Danny hiding behind Luke when the men with the machine guns come in.
Yes,
he just
it's
rolls
so
behind them and
good,
stands behind them because he knows that's going to be okay because they've had that
And
conversation.
Luke standing there completely unimpressed.
Yeah, and
This
it-
is cute.
That man goes through more yellow shirts.
absolutely. And this is a really short fight scene, but I really love this team up
Yes.
scene. It's
Yep.
really
Yeah.
great.
Love
It's
it.
like I want to see more of them fighting together. If
absolutely
Luke
do too. Yeah.
Cage season 2 or Iron Fist season 2 doesn't have the two of them fighting together, I just don't know what the point it was. Why not? So Matt arrives on the penthouse floor from the stairs just as Jessica Jones comes through the elevator, proving that probably wasn't the best use of his energy.
Okay, but here's the thing. This is like the corporate headquarters of the Hand. Presumably they have some kind of security on the elevators. I think Matt made the right choice and we just let Jessica slide by because it's good for the joke.
Yeah, that's true. That's
This is where we
absolutely
get-
true.
She may
You
have
look like
ripped
an
the
asshole.
camera out.
Yeah, she took out whatever security guards were
Yeah,
going
fair.
on while Matt was parkouring up the
All the ones
stairs.
who look, huh? As Matt runs by. This is when we get, you look like an asshole. It's your scarf.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
your
pretty
scarf. Yeah, great comedic timing. I love the chemistry between those two for sure.
I would absolutely watch a Jessica Jones and Daredevil and Friends show. Which I guess is basically what this is. But
Can we get that like 60s remake cartoon Jessica Jones and Daredevil and Friends?
Yes.
This is part of the problem of the Defenders, though. I like the chemistry between these characters so much that I'm fearful that we're going to get Jessica Jones season 2 without any of these other characters.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
worried about that too. And I feel like if they do that, I'm like, what's the point? You just put all these characters together. Why not cameo the hell out of them?
Yeah, you'd
Well, I
want
mean, it's
to,
going to be
right?
really similar to, I don't know, like, I guess the way that, like, I feel whenever it's like, okay, well, here's another Iron Man movie, here's another Thor movie, here's another Captain America movie, and it's like, where is everybody else?
Yeah, you've got to justify
Why are we
that.
not
And
all together?
They've slowly been fixing that problem. I feel like
Yeah.
Captain America Civil War should be how the Netflix series continues forth.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Iron Man, or oh, it's Iron Fist. Well, now this whole team's showing up too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually Defenders season 2. under the guise of Iron Fist season
we
2.
saw a perfect example of this in Spider-Man Homecoming, arguably,
Yes.
where we have
Exactly.
Iron Man,
Yes.
and not just Iron Man, but Happy and Pepper too, kind of
And
rounding
then, like,
out our sense
Cap
of
cameos.
Cap
Yes.
cameos. I'm into that too.
exactly.
Yeah.
And CGI cameos of everybody who was in Civil War.
I'll accept in Jessica Jones season 2, we get one scene in a diner with Matt Murdock and one scene in a
Exactly,
bar
yeah.
with Luke Cage. Like,
Yes.
I'll take that. That's
She's
enough.
not going to hang out with Danny, though.
Right.
So, like, that's fine.
Fair.
I'd
Go to him for
like
money at some point.
I'd like a scene of Danny trying to hang out with her and her just like avoiding him. Like their phone keeps ringing. She
Phone,
looks
it
like,
says
no.
Danny Rand, like, 6 next to it in parentheses.
That's all I need. That's
Yeah,
the whole thing.
yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah, she just constantly hangs up on him through the season.
And he's just totally like Peter Parkering her. Hey, when are we going to fight crime again? Are we going to get together? Do we have
Hey,
a
how's
thing?
it going? Hey, I put together this vlog of our best fight scenes.
I've just been training a lot. I'm the immortal Iron Fist. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Have you thought of a code name? I've come up with like 16 for you.
I got all the Twitter accounts for you just in case you want to pick one
At
of them.
JJo.
Yeah. I really like the idea. We are retconning Danny Rand into being Angus MacDonald, and I'm super into it. Hello, sirs. I'm the immortal Iron Fist. I'm the world's greatest
My name is
detective.
Danny Rand, and I am the immortal Iron Fist. Do you guys want to go fight crime together?
And I know you stole my silverware.
I just re-listened to that the other day, actually, and it hurt my heart, so we can't talk about that right now.
Nope, we can't talk about for multiple reasons because we don't have enough time. Cage throws a guy through a wall, and all
Yup.
4 of our heroes meet in the hallway.
Oh
and
my
Elektra
gosh,
comes
yes.
down one end of the hallway, and a group of disposable baddies down the other end. And our team is now engaged in a classic Marvel Netflix trademarked hallway battle.
Yep.
And I like the way that they're introduced here together. Jessica, Luke, how have you been? Long story. We have to get out of here. Who's he? Longer story. Who's he?
It's
all the
really great.
confusion.
And having Luke and Jessica there kind of anchoring this whole thing
Yes.
Yeah,
works beautifully. The camera movement through the sequence is just fantastic. This
Yeah.
is kind of the opposite of the now infamous locked off hallway battle from Daredevil season
Right.
1.
Which is so freaking
Which is-
good.
It
Yeah.
is so good.
Good. I mean, this is so much more acrobatic, so much more cinematically dynamic than
Yes.
that, but I love what we get.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt engages in battle with Elektra, not even realizing it's her at first. Lack of real sight
Weird.
means
You'd
not
think that you
clearly
could, like,
seeing facial
smell
features.
her or
Yeah.
something.
Well, he
She
expects her.
probably still smells like her bloodbath.
Yeah.
I mean,
Fair.
And he
Yeah.
expects her to be dead. He's not like looking for that scent if you're not
Okay.
looking for it.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
fair. And again, chocolate syrup bath.
But then he does while fighting her since he focuses in and he thinks it could be her. He mentions, he's like, Elektra. And so she pauses as he says her name. And then Danny uses the Iron Fist to destroy her sword as she swings it to a really cool effect. I
Yeah.
really like
Yeah,
that
that's
moment.
pretty good, yeah.
And knocks her through a wall. Matt, confused, follows Danny into an elevator with Jessica and Luke. And that's
that
the end
is
of our 3rd episode.
Such a great finale because we've all seen that shot. It's in all
Yeah.
the promotional material. It was in the trailer. It's brilliant. I love that shot. Of the
It was
four of them
really
in the elevator.
brilliant promotional to have the security camera from the elevator with all of them going down in the elevator, and the time stamp was the date it was coming out because no one knew the date, but they were able to guess from the time
Oh,
stamp, and
that's
that ended
really
up being
cool.
the
I
real
didn't
date.
realize that. Yeah, and I
it
love
was
when when you see
fantastic.
Jessica just hop up and yank it out. So good.
So that takes us to episode 4, Royal Dragon, directed by Phil Abraham, written by Douglas Petrie and Marco Ramirez, and
This episode is called Royal Dragon.
Royal Dragon
Yeah.
named after the restaurant.
It's the Chinese
Oh,
restaurant, yeah.
duh.
Yep. Phil Abraham is a cinematographer and television director. He is known for his work on The Sopranos and his Emmy Award-winning work on Mad Men.
Wow.
And he directed episodes on both seasons of Daredevil.
This is for me the best looking episode out of the entire run.
Yeah.
Or out of the run that I've seen so far.
It's my favorite
Yeah.
one.
I think it steps up so much. And using this one set, I mean, much of this episode is just a conversation in a single set.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it works brilliantly.
It's kind of like a bottle episode.
It kind of is. Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic stuff.
The Defenders take refuge in a closing restaurant as we open up our episode here. And I really like the restaurant that they're taking refuge in, the Royal Dragon, has the color scheme of all of their colors. So inside, the decorations are all their colors, and the sign outside has 4 distinct colors that are their colors.
Yeah.
That's
It's
awesome.
really
Pretty great.
cool done.
And we get to
really
use the
well done.
lighting inside to great effect through
Yes.
the sequence.
Yeah. Which, speaking of my first favorite quote, we need to kill the lights. How do you even know they're on? And then I still hear neon. Who hears neon? And I also really like Danny's, whoa, she's strong. When Jessica picks up the
know.
first, he's just like,
I
whoa.
love that. This is the turning point for me. Like,
Yes.
I, as much as we can joke about like the motivation behind it, I actually hate Danny Rand's boardroom scene in episode 3. I just think it's terrible. It's badly written, and it's not brilliantly performed.
Yeah.
But Danny in this episode is
He's
so
really perfect
great.
in
It's so good. No, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
like I had mentioned earlier, this is the episode where I'm like, all right, Dan, you might be okay.
Yeah.
You might be fine.
Yeah, and even when the owner of the restaurant, of course, does not want them there, and he gets him to let them stay there by bribing him, by giving him his black card and saying, I'll pay the next 6 months of rent, and I'll buy 10 of everything on the menu, 4 of everything. Oh, it's 4 of
He's
everything on the menu.
Talking to him in Mandarin, which
Yes.
is great, and kind
He's
of
like, "You know
reassuring him.
Chinese?"
And yeah, this is a wonderful moment of connection and capability for Danny.
Yes.
Yeah, and then of course the amazing dialogue from the trailer. Are those pork? No, they're shrimp. Oh, this guy's got pork. Oh, great. It's like Matt's just smelling what type of meat it is from across the room, and I think Jessica says you're weird or something like that. And then Danny and Matt explain what they know about the hand. And when we get that line, I'm the immortal Iron Fist. Are you on lithium?
Yeah.
Which is exactly what any of us might say to him if we heard him say that. Matt tries to stay secretive and wants to leave, but Jessica pulls him back in and he reveals his identities, both of them.
That's so great.
Yeah, it's really weird because you don't expect that from Jessica, but it
naturally.
actually does play well. It's like she wants to get to the bottom of this. She's like, clearly we all could figure out who you are. I'm a detective. I know that you're Daredevil.
Right.
This is not like a giant leap. They could figure it out soon even.
Yeah.
Why don't you just come forward?
This for me is what sets Doug Petrie apart from most other writers. His command of character is extraordinary. What makes his work on Buffy exceptional is that he has a handle on minor characters
Yes.
that eludes basically everyone else who wrote on that show. He writes my favorite Xander. He writes my favorite Anya. He writes fantastic Joyce. He's just tremendous at handling these characters, and he's got such a strong grasp, which is necessary because this entire episode is basically different variations of our foursome. You know,
Yeah.
we'll get specific interactions between, I think, basically every pairing and every kind of triplicate pairing that we get that is possible between these 4 characters, and he does them all beautifully. And he gives us my favorite line in the show so far. It's Chi.
It's not.
It's not.
It's pretty fantastic. Danny suggests that they should work together as a team, but the others aren't so sure. Stick enters all bandaged up. He explains that a long time ago, the elders of Kunlun came together to study these healing powers, but 5 among them wished to use the power to live forever and were cast out. They became the 5 fingers of the hand, you see. It's very clear
lucky there
imagery.
were 5 of
The
them.
middle finger.
There were 5 of them.
Alexandra. The 5 fingers include Alexandra, who has gone by many names throughout the centuries, as Jessica finds out later, researching in show comments. That's also a really great moment I should point out, because I don't think I put it in my notes elsewhere. When she's studying on her computer the signatures from these shell companies and notices that they're all the same handwriting, even though they're different names. It's all Alexandra. That's another really good detective moment. I really
Well,
like
I mean,
that.
it was sort of hubris to keep picking A names, I guess.
Well, you don't expect anyone to be looking for it.
Right, exactly.
Fair.
Of course,
Okay,
of
yeah.
centuries. Yeah.
Also, Madame Gao, Sawande, the White Hat Man, and Murakami, and the recently deceased from Iron Fist season, Bakudo.
Yeah.
Now the Hand have defeated all the Chase except for Stick. Stick tells them that they need to save the city, but Matt doesn't trust him, and Jessica doesn't want any part of any of it, so she leaves.
Bye.
I like that Luke tries to get her to come back, and then he's like fully like, okay, I understand. Just take care of yourself. And that's a really
I
nice
love
moment
you.
between the two of them. I love you.
God, it's so
I
good.
love you, Jessica. What'd you say? I said that
bye,
the
have a
pork
good
tastes
time.
great,
Love with
Sika.
punching.
I hope you find your dad. Narwhal Luke Cage.
Jessica the Elf.
Yes. Alexandra meets with Murakami and talks of recent events. We learn that Alexandra is the group leader, but the others are doubting her, and she is the only one who fully trusts an Elektra as their weapon. This is enforced by Sawande talking down to Elektra in another scene. Jessica visits the wife of the architect again, this time drunk, and finds out someone has been watching her from a vehicle outside. Jessica goes to take care of it, fighting the trained hand operative when she hears someone calling over his communicator. This is where we get the great line where the wife asks, "What time is it?" And Jessica goes, "Late or early, depending on your life choices." And then
Are you drunk? No. Yeah, it's not a problem.
it's not a problem. And then she's like, "I'm the only one who doesn't know karate," and fighting that guy, and she shoves his head into the glass. And is
Yes.
like, "I'm no black belt. Why don't you tell me when this hurts?"
Slowly pushing someone's
It's
face
pretty
through a
great.
windshield.
I like it.
That's really bad.
Yeah.
I love
a
her
great
so
effect.
much.
Back at the restaurant, Stick talks privately with Matt about Elektra while Danny and Luke bond. We get Luke's line, "I'm not looking for super friends." None of us are.
Yeah.
The Hands shows up in a van outside, but Alexandra comes in the back undetected. She wants to talk everything over, offering to spare New York if Danny leaves with her because they need the Iron Fist. He obviously rejects her. And I like this moment where I think she's maybe hitting on Luke or thinks he's sexy or something. She gives him this like eye and then says, I don't think we've been introduced. And he goes, let's keep it that way.
This is my question. Is this Alexandra hitting on Luke or is this Sigourney Weaver hitting on Mike Coulter? Because
Both.
she
Oh.
looks
Why
like she's
can't be
having
both?
a great time. It's a
Zoidberg says, why not both?
wonderful
Elektra enters ready to attack, but Jessica drives an SUV through the front of the restaurant and into Elektra.
No.
Throws it through the
throws
window.
it.
She's not driving, but it is
Yes.
like propelled through the
Yes,
window. I don't know if
it's
she was,
so
I wasn't
good.
sure how she did that. If she like pushed something on the gas pedal, if she just pushed it. How
No, I
did
think
it,
she
but-
just chucks it through the window.
Yeah.
Here's my next question. Why not drive it through the window and just run over Elektra and then back over Elektra and then run over Elektra again?
Because here's why. Because she does that, knocks Elektra on the ground with the car, walks by her and gives her the sup nod. And it's the best thing I've ever seen. With Elektra laying on the ground looking up at Jones and Jones just like, sup.
Yep.
As she walks by and gets in line with her team.
And then she gets in line with everybody and is like, who missed me?
Yep.
And then we get this should be the poster of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Just everyone
Electra
getting
gets
into their
back up.
fighting stances.
Everyone's in their fighting poses.
It's so good. And we get to see the combination here, too. My favorite is, of course, Matt right at the back of the shot, just kind of putting up his dukes, getting into boxing position. And we're reminded that he's a brawler.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the great thing
Yeah.
about Daredevil. I am so into it at this point. This is such a great cliffhanger. I'm expecting probably an anticlimactic fight scene because I know that the next episode is the 5th of an 8-episode run.
Right.
And I'm into that. The beat with Alexandra appearing in the restaurant here. Sarah, you probably know if she has other supernatural powers. Sarah, did this feel weird to you? Because she manages to sneak into a restaurant that is occupied by 2 people with Daredevil powers. That seems surprising to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, did they just not lock the back door? Or I don't know.
Matt should be able to hear her footsteps, if not her heartbeat at this point.
Right.
And
It
yet
seems
he's
Well,
like
obviously
there is
surprised
something
when
about the
he turns
heartbeat because
around.
he also says he can't hear Electra's heartbeat because she was resurrected. And we do
Yes.
know that Alexandra has
Yes.
been resurrected multiple times from her dialogue.
so maybe
fair.
they
Yeah,
either
okay.
have no heartbeat
Yeah, I don't
or
know what.
excessively
But that doesn't
slow
make any sense because her
heartbeats.
organs are failing, but her heart doesn't beat. I don't know.
That's right. Like she's been
Your
to the
organs
doctor.
are
It's very.
Your heart
just
has
wave
failed.
over
I
that
don't know
thing.
what. I mean, like it's stopped. You're
So,
a vampire, maybe?
You have a resting heartbeat of 1 per week? That's weird.
Because,
That's weird.
because you do
Surprising.
learn, I think, from Daredevil season 2 that when the Hand are resurrected, they don't have heartbeats because it was
Okay.
very hard for Daredevil to fight them because he can't find their heartbeats.
Well, that's okay.
Excellent,
Then
okay.
that makes it even especially weird that she like went
Yeah,
to this
so
doctor who was like, "Yeah, no, you're suffering from organ failure right
it
now."
must be that she was resurrected in this very specific way to not have that problem. I guess I don't know.
I don't know, or maybe she had like a heart transplant. I don't know. But no, it is
Wave
weird.
right over it.
It seems that Daredevil's powers seem to kind of hinge on what the plot requires at any given time.
I think that's fair of most superheroes.
I think
in his
so,
defense.
yeah.
I think, to be fair, we can go in story and say that he has to be focusing on it. Like, if
Yeah,
he's not
he is-
focusing on something,
he's
then
very focused on
and
the
he's
van
focused
true,
on the
because
van
it's-
outside.
Yeah, if he was only, I mean, like if this was heightened senses on everything all the time, you would go into it
Yeah.
and be like,
Right.
again, to go back to another Buffy reference, and be like that time that Buffy got telekinesis
Yes,
and
yes.
almost went crazy.
He doesn't
Also-
have a spider sense. He just
Yes.
has enhanced senses.
She's had at least 400 years more training than any of them, and
That's
she's been
true.
fighting Stick his whole life.
Yeah.
So
And we
she
know
knows
that
his
she's
tricks,
A very capable.
and she was able to
competent too,
capture
yeah.
Stick in the first
Yeah.
place. So.
Yeah.
Capture Stick, fight Elektra.
So I don't know. I figure she walked up to the back door of the restaurant, just like yanked off the doorknob,
Yep,
you know,
probably.
just pushed it open.
Slipped her way in there so that she could be seductive and charming and just.
The
generally
door was
brilliant.
left open by Luke when he went out back, and she snuck in, slit the throat of one of the waiters, and then walked like he was walking to sound like him as she entered the room,
Oh,
and
man.
then sat down.
Oh, that's very good.
See, this is
Head
my-
canon
yes.
accepted.
Yes, gosh.
'Cause you know she
my
killed
supervillain
someone coming
mom,
in.
Yeah,
I'm so
definitely.
proud of
Yeah.
her. I want her to teach me all her tricks.
So you guys, those are the first 4 episodes of The Defenders.
We
Next
did it!
week, the back half of the season. I literally can't wait. As soon as we're done here, I'm going to go and watch that.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
And then just want to talk about them for the next
Yes.
week before we sit down to record again.
Yep.
But such is our burden here on Excelsior.
Yeah, it's hard work. Somebody's got to do it.
Yup. I really enjoy it. What do you guys think? I mean, obviously, yeah,
love
I
it.
enjoy.
Yeah.
I think that we're all in. Yeah.
As of the first 4 episodes, it is very, very close to Jessica Jones as my
Right,
favorite
yeah.
Marvel Netflix series so far.
Yeah, it's really, really good. It's definitely ranked right up there. It's definitely above Iron Fist in the ranking, ranking
yeah.
with Daredevil season 1 and 2 and Jessica Jones for me for sure.
Yeah. Sarah, how
Excellent.
do you like it?
I like it quite a bit. I still think that I like Jessica Jones just a little bit more, but I have not finished the series quite yet, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that I'll probably Still love Jessica Jones the best. But yeah, so far I'm really enjoying it. I love whenever we get to watch, people come together and kick a ton of ass.
Yeah.
It's, one of my primary values.
Also, as an 8-episode series, it has one significant advantage over Jessica Jones, which is it probably isn't going to lose its way in its last act. Jessica Jones kind of goes around the houses a little bit before we finish up that story, and I hear that Luke Cage goes off the rails, and Daredevil season 1 is focused, but I hear that season 2 is much less focused.
Well, if you're a big Elektra fan, then that doesn't bother you in season 2, but
right,
because that's how it goes off the rails.
Turns out none of us are. We just don't care about
Turns
Elektra.
out maybe no
Here's
one
my thing with Daredevil
Whoa.
season 2. If you're going to introduce a character as compelling as the Punisher, why not just stick with him the whole season?
It's fair.
Why
fair.
introduce Elektra halfway through the season and go, hey, let's focus on her instead? When I'm like, please just go back. I had that guy I wanted to see here. No? Okay.
Give me John Bernthal!
It's like giving me a really tasty candy bar and then being like, hey, would you like this caramel old person candy instead? And I'm like, I don't know.
Caramel old person candy?
Yeah.
Do you mean a Werther's original?
Yes.
Okay. It's more of a
Those are
butterscotch.
butterscotch.
Would you like a
Wonderful.
Werther's? I don't. But what's the difference? I don't know the difference. They're both terrible.
Okay, all
I don't
right.
like. I don't like caramels. So.
All right,
We're going to go and
okay.
educate Vinton on candy.
Yes, clearly.
Before we do that, Sarah, take us out of the show.
I sure will. If you enjoyed this episode, if you enjoy all of our episodes, if you would like us to do more episodes, you can support us and help us to do more stuff like this by heading on over to patreon.com/commonroomradio, where you can kick us $1 a month or whatever you can afford. And over there, you will find amazing gag reels for this show and other shows. If you want to chat with us, you can do so over on Twitter. You can find us there at Excelsior Cast. You can find me at Elsa Grab the Salt.
I'm at Paper Bullets.
And I'm at Flesh Eater.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us this week. Again, we will be back next week with the second half of The Defenders. And until then, from Common Room Radio, I'm Sarah Cade Pizant.
I'm Alistair Stevens.
And I'm Vinton Bain. And I'm the immortal Iron Fist, secret protector of Kunlun.
Are you on lithium?
Excelsior!
Excelsior!
We just